Hello and welcome to an all-new episode of animebrainfreeze. We are once again your cursed hosts.
I am John.
And I'm CC. And when there's just too much cool anime to watch, we've got you covered. Today we will return to the Society of Curse Users and Sorcerous to witness a series of climactic battles in their second season of Studio Mappa's big hit show, Jujutsu Kaisen. But before that, since it's the start of a new season, we of course have checked out a couple of premieres and will give you our 2 cents on each of them momentarily in the sneak peek. So grab your favorite transfigured body, expand your comfortable domain as far as you need to without encroaching on someone's personal space, of course, and definitely don't pause the pod. We'll be right back. They try to hit you. They try to get you Alright, sneak peek time. Yes, as usual for first-time listeners, what this is our little preview section for the anime that just started this new season. And we have our 3 sections, the nopes, the maybes, and the keepers. So nopes are the shows that we checked out but won't keep on watching. Maybes are the shows that we checked out and might keep on watching but are not sure about yet for various reasons. And the keepers, of course, the shows that we're pretty sure we will watch from beginning to end if nothing super strange happens with those shows. And yeah, there's a bunch of new premieres this season, some interesting ones. Took a while to get going there, like the first week or something. There was nothing really that piqued my interest much anyway, but then the interesting ones slowly started to trickle in, and they're not even done yet. Like there's one show, Kamui Ninja, that I want to check out that doesn't air until mid-February or something.
Jeez.
So yeah, I can't talk about that yet. But depending on how it is, if it's good or anything, it might turn up later as a review or in the quick end of that or whatever. Who knows? We will see. But yeah, that's still the one show I was interested in and that I couldn't check out yet. But let's start out with the nopes. And I have one, which hasn't been the case for a while. I think the last time I got a nope was several seasons ago because I have made it a habit of looking at the anime preview cards on any chart or whatever and be like, nope. I'm not even gonna check those out because those sound horrendous. And we got a couple of those this season, believe me. So usually I'm just already exercising those from my watch list beforehand. But this time I got one, and it's Blue Exorcist, Shimane Illuminati Saga, which is the 3rd season of Blue Exorcist. And the reason for me not watching it is not because it's a bad show, because I watched the first 2 seasons. The reason for me not watching this is because the 2nd season was 7 goddamn years ago.
Oh, right, yeah.
That was actually one of the first things I reviewed for our podcast. And the same issue I had back then, I have again now, just as I do with any of these shows that take these super long breaks between seasons. I barely remember anything that happened before this. I remember the faces. I remember most of the basics. Okumura, half demon, son of Satan, gets enrolled in Magic Academy with other young exorcists in training, yada yada yada. But I don't remember the plot. I don't remember the character development. It's just been too damn long, guys.
Yeah, that was like me with a teen rom-com snafu. I think it was like 4 or 5 years in between like the second and the final season. And I was like, I would have to, I remember all the characters. I have to refresh my memory on a lot of stuff. So I still haven't gone back and done that.
Yeah, and we had a couple of other of those shows where it was like Full Metal Panic, Invisible Victory came super late after the season, even longer than this, like, I don't know, 20 years or something. And of course there it makes sense, I wanted to revisit this anyway, and it's kind of only 2 short air seasons, so it's fine. But with this, I already did a catch-up when the 2nd season arrived, because there was a lot of time between Blue Exorcist season 1 and 2. And now another long break between 2 and 3. And as usual, they don't even give me a proper recap episode. For some reason, we sometimes get those in the middle of normal 26 episode seasons, but not, or even 13 episodes one, but not if there are 7 fucking years between season 2 and 3. Come on! And I like the
feel
show.
like at that point it's kind of warranted.
Yes, absolutely. And I like the show. I like the cast. Although I remember season 2 not exactly setting my world on fire compared to season 1. But without rewatching the previous seasons, I feel lost. So I guess the best approach with these kind of shows is just to hope for a full adaptation and then just watch it all from beginning to end once it's finished. Like, I have the same issue with Ancient Magus Bride right now because I need to revisit the first season for that. I remember the bullet points, but I feel like the first season was good enough that it has earned the right to, like, for me to watch it again and, you know, get freshed up on the character development and everything, which I remember really, really like. But, you know, I need to do that to feel like I'm prepared for the second season and know who all of these characters are at this point in the show, like what they went through and what they already experienced and everything and where they're going now. And, you know, like I said, there was another recent one where I ran into the same problem. I don't even know which one it was, where I had to catch up. But, you know, I have an old man brain, guys, and there's too much other stuff to watch for me to rewatch all previous seasons of this one show every time you decide to do a new one after who knows how long. And the manga isn't even finished. So
it's not?
No. So who knows how long it will take them to get to the end and how many years of a break they will take after this season.
Oh my God, it's been running since 2009?
Yes.
What?
It's one of those, you know, long-running shonens on the side that nobody really talks about because it's not in the constant zeitgeist. Like Naruto was for a while. One Piece still is, right? And, you know, currently Jujutsu Kaisen, I guess Chainsaw Man is, and I don't know, Demon Slayer is for a while. I mean, Demon Slayer is finished, but was for a while anyway. So, you know, it's always like, yeah, it's still there, and apparently it's maybe successful enough to warrant a new anime adaptation. I think it's always changing studios. The newest one is done by Studio One, and I think it looks a bit better than the previous season, if I'm not mistaken, which was also not done by A1 Pictures, who did the first season. But, you know, it still seems to be successful enough to warrant an anime adaptation, unless they want to use that to promote the manga, but whatever. But it's still like, yeah, nobody really thinks of that one to name that one or something. Like, I don't hear it talked about ever, but it's still there. And like I said, I like the characters and I want to check it out and I want to finish that story, but I will wait for this to actually finish if this is the way they intend to release it. Like, if they're like, maybe they know that the manga will finish up sooner. It's like, now is the time to get back into the anime and we're going to, from this moment on, we're going to do continuous seasons. But I don't know that. So I'll just wait. I'm sorry, Blue Exorcist. I'm going to put you in the backlog for now. And that's where you're going to stay until I know that the manga is finished. And it's going to get a full anime adaptation till the very end of the story. And then I'm going to check it out. Because this is getting ridiculous. So that's my one nope. Not because the show sucks. Like, I watched the first episode. And aside from me, like, barely remembering where we are in this story, I had a good time. But I also was like, man, I wish I remembered what we last did in this show. Like, where the characters talk about stuff, like, yeah, I think I remember that, but I'm also not sure. I don't know what you're referring to right now. What is that? What did happen there exactly with you, character? And yeah, I remember liking you, but I don't know why. So yeah, I'll just wait. If it's done, I'm gonna watch it all the way through, and then maybe I'll talk about it again and quick into that. I mean, it would have not been a full review anyway because it's a continued season, and I'm the only one watching it here. So that's I just wanted to complain about this the way they're going about this because this is kind of dumb. That's all. John, what is your first maybe? Because I think you don't have any nopes.
Yeah, my first maybe is kind of bordering on a nope, though. It's Sengoku Youko.
Oh, yeah, that's one of my babies as well. Not sure. I mean, I like the first episode. I haven't checked out the second yet.
Yeah, I watched the first 3 episodes, and it centers around this boy and girl who kind of present themselves as siblings, but they're not really. Tama and Jinka.
I think Jinka is Tama's stepbrother. At least that's what some synopsis or the summary
kind
said.
Of like, I'm kind of reading into it like they kind of adopted each other as siblings.
Could be the case because, you know, they're like both spirit beings or whatever. Like she's a fox spirit, he's a sage.
Yeah, and basically this is like a feudal Japan setting where there are these spirits called katawara.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yokai, demons, whatever, the other.
They're kind of all over the place.
Yeah, you get in all of these stories.
There's some good ones, and there's some not so good ones. And sometimes the people aren't so good either.
Yes.
So Jinka kind of borrows Tama's power to become like a half katawara. So that way he can either dispatch the ones that are bad, or in the case of the second and third episodes, basically start his own all-out war with a bunch of monks who are experimenting on humans to turn them into katawara.
Spoilers.
It's the first 3 episodes.
Yes, I know. I just have watched the first one, so whatever.
It just seems a little by the numbers, but I also have a hard time giving it a hard no, because it's written by Juki Hanada, and he's done written a whole bunch of other anime that I think are really good. It's got great music by Evan Call. Mm-hmm. White Fox has been, a really great animation studio. They don't do a lot of stuff.
Yeah, but when they do, it usually is, fun,
really
and
high quality.
Really high quality, and also they seem to pick projects that are not, your too standard stuff. Like they go into genres where like, oh yeah, I know this, but it's still like there's always a neat little twist to this, which this also kind of has, in my opinion, because Tama is like, she is like also a, spirit being or whatever, and most of those kind of look down upon humans apparently, or like don't get along with them as well. Like Jinka is like, fuck humans basically, but she likes them. And usually, apparently her shtick is, I kind of want to resolve these conflicts peacefully, and I want to discuss this with the evil people and turn them over to my side, and I'm trying to find the best argument to make that happen without fighting. Which is kind of this neat, unusual approach. Like, she's like I'm going to debate this, or I'm going to present you with an option that's much better than you getting the shit beat out of you. So that's unusual, and that's neat. And she being the person who's like, no, I actually like humans, and I want to get along with them and anything, and I want to make them better than some of them are. So that feels like, yeah, that's this cool. And like you said, White Fox is really good. They're really actually animating the shit out of some of it, at least judging from the first episode. So
another nice thing is that this is based off of a manga that has completed its run.
That's a big pro. It's a big thing in its favor, because like if this is successful enough, that means we're gonna get the whole thing and don't have to wait forever and stuff like that.
Well, I think they have already confirmed that, because it's supposed to be 36 or 37 episodes.
Really? Is it so?
Yeah.
That's a short manga.
Yeah, I didn't look up how long it ran for. I can do that right now, but I don't think it was super long. Mm-hmm. It ran from 2007 to 2016.
Okay.
It's kind of switched publications in the middle of its run, looks like.
But it looks interesting. And I right now, it's still a maybe for you apparently as well. What was the thing that was like this could also turn into a nope?
It's just shonen anime,
Okay, I get it. Yes.
Like, I mean, like I said, I don't outwardly dislike this, but show me the hook.
Yes.
And we're already 3 episodes in, and I don't really have that, so it might get pushed to the side.
I hope they get like deeper into the Tama with her different approach to all of this, and not just resolve everything with Jinka beating the shit out of a monster or whatever. So maybe that will be the thing that will keep me to stick around. But I also just like you, I don't know. I'm not negative. I'm not down on it or anything. But there's this one wrinkle that's really interesting, and the rest is standard stuff. And aside from good production values and everything. So who knows?
Shinsuke is also kind of.
I mean, he was fine the first episode. He was like a bit clingy once he found someone who's like, oh yeah, nice.
He's kind of.
They can help me get stronger. That could mean anything, John.
You'll see. Like, okay. I mean, he's trying his best, but it's also sort of, okay, dude.
Okay. Maybe a bit overzealous for his own good. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I'll see. I'll check out the at least 2 more episodes to get to where you are and then see how I feel about it. But yeah. Which I will also do for my next maybe, which I don't know if you even looked at that. Witch and the Beast.
Mm-mm.
All right, so it's about these 2 characters, Guido and Chef, who hunt witches for a magical order. And Guido is in search of a specific witch that curse her to make her remove said curse. And the Chef is a mage, her mage companion who carries a coffin around for some reason. And at the end of the first episode, when we have like a big climactic battle against the witch, we find out what that coffin houses, which is Guido's real body, which she can temporarily return to when she kisses a witch. And that body is very powerful and very good for punching evil witches in the gut. And yeah, that's kind of it. It's kind of like this weird semi-steampunkish, but also, modern times fantasy tale. It looks a bit flat and the animation is a bit middling. It's definitely the edgelordiest show I checked out this season. But it's got a neat buddy cop B-monster movie vibe going on, and you don't see that many shows that turn their heroines into hulking Frankenstein monstrosities to power them up. So that's pretty fresh. I like what I saw there. Like, she really becomes this behemoth when she returns to her body. It's like, holy shit, that's definitely a big monster guy or girl. And yeah, that's fun. That's unusual. Usually anime like to keep their heroines somewhat pretty. Although that's always in the eye of the beholder. Maybe someone digs her real body's looks. I don't know. Some guys might be into that. Yeah, it's fun. Like I said, it's edgelordy. It's like super. There's some really, I don't want to call them gross scenes, but it's like, oh shit, this is super dark. Look at this dark twist, and suddenly there all these girls that believed in this witch, like she cut off their feet and wants to sacrifice them, and there's blood everywhere, and you're like, all right. Okay, Madoka wannabe. We got Madoka at home. It's like, yeah. So we'll see. It's just, the dynamic between Godot and the Chef is kind of fun, and the animation is alright, and it's a fantasy thing, and monsters. I'm always into monsters, so it's okay. I don't know if I'll stick with it. I have only checked out 1 episode so far. I'll check out 2 more, and then we see how I feel about it. John, what is your next maybe?
My next maybe, it's kind of bordering on a keeper, I think. It's Delicious in Dungeon.
Yes, that's the case for me as well. What is it about?
It is about an adventuring party going deep into a dungeon, and the main character, Laios, one of the main characters, his sister gets eaten up by a dragon.
Mm-hmm.
And when he and his remaining party members are kind of trying to collect themselves, they head back into the dungeon without much of a plan, and Laios sort of starts to realize, I think we were underprepared because we didn't have enough supplies in particular meaning food. So they run across this, I guess he's a dwarf, Senshi?
Yes, he's supposed to be a dwarf, yeah.
And Senshi knows a lot about stuff that may or may not be edible within the dungeon. And we sort of start to see that Laios has been curious about, well, I wonder how certain monsters or flora within the dungeon taste. And well, today you are going to learn, my dude.
And we are going to learn.
Yes, and Senshi is very proficient at preparing and cooking all of this stuff, and they sort of go through the dungeon and sort of discover, this monster can be cooked up like this plant can be prepared like this, and it's sort of an interesting way to look at, your survivalist guidebook sort of through this deep dungeon. And it's kind of presented like this underground mystery dungeon type thing where it's this castle with different layers and different almost like biomes to it as they travel deeper and deeper.
Different ecosystems and everything. You got a jungle-ish area here, and then something else there, and a different flora and fauna, of course, in each of them. And it's a bit like Made in Abyss, only much more cozier.
Yes,
less horrible death. Although there is death, but it's usually kind of funny in a way, the way it's presented. Even the fact that Lio's sister apparently is just waiting to be resurrected, and they need to get to her before she gets digested by the dragon, but she kind of is, not really dead yet. Is kind of gruesome, but also kind of funny.
They sort of speak about, my first time dying. So wait a minute, there's resurrection in this world, but it seems like there's a limit to it.
Yeah, there's a limit to it. There's a proximity limit to it as well. They can't just, get out of the dungeon and hey, I'm going to cast my revival spell from here. Also, that probably wouldn't do much good because then she would still be in the stomach of the dragon or whatever. So, yeah.
Well, as far as we know, his sister is still alive. It's just that we have been told that, red dragons take a while to digest their food. So.
They basically need to get to the dragon, cut it open, get her out of there, and then cook the dragon and eat it, which is how they get Senshi on board, right? They are hey, we're hunting this dragon. He's like, I have never... This is my holy grail, my white whale, right? To eat this dragon meat. So I'm going to join you so we can beat the dragon and eat it. Yeah, all right, that's a mission. That's fine. Life goals, #life goals. But it's cool. It's the slightly different cooking focused show, I would say, with a fantasy edge. And of course, you also there's a lot of world building. You learn how this world functions, how the economy in this world functions, and everything. And that's interesting in itself. And of course, we got a bunch of fun characters. You got the archetypes. Of course, Laios is the hero, Masi is the sorcerer, Senshi is the dwarf, and then we have Chilchuk, the pickpocket, lockpicker or whatever, right? The thief archetype. And the show also is kind of being, a bit cheeky with that, because I think, I've only watched one episode, so it has to be the first one. But when they get back into the dungeon, another adventurer crew runs past them to get out of the dungeon because they're hunted by monsters or something. And they look almost exactly, in terms of, how it's made up, how their party is made up. They look almost exactly like our heroes. There's a tall hero-esque guy, there's a magician, and there's a small guy that looks almost exactly like Chilchuk. It's these are kind of we're following just, the archetypes here, and there are a bunch of those running around.
Hey man, mind your party comp.
Yes, of course. Yes, this makes absolute sense. You want 2 damage dealers, you want a tank, and you want a fucking healer and whatever. So makes absolutely sense. Final Fantasy XIV has that figured out. And the character dynamics are fun. You already mentioned Laos, and he's definitely he's fun. Masil, the magician, definitely not as excited about eating monsters as Laios is. Although,
can you blame her?
No, he definitely is a bit too much into it, a bit obsessive, maybe, quote unquote.
I mean, I could see being curious about it, but there's moments where it's okay, Laios, you gotta slow down a little, gotta calm down.
He bought the expanded encyclopedia, he's that guy.
With the outdated information that Senshi is constantly correcting.
Yeah, exactly. But still, he spent the big bucks on the leather imprint or whatever. He's that guy. He's the super ops. Not Senshi. Senshi is the actual guy who knows stuff. But Laios is the guy who just from the outside, but also collects the shit. Yeah, so, and Marcel is not that. She just wants to have a nice dinner in a restaurant. But I also love Marcel's reaction when she actually really enjoys something they cook up out of the fruits of a carnivorous plant. And she gets nerdy about how sweet how the sweet taste figured into it, and the behavior of the plant and everything what she experienced and how that works into the ecosystem of the dungeon. And Laios is so happy that she shows interest in the topic, which makes her recoil in fear and disgust because she doesn't want to become as creepy as him. It was such a great scene. Her face, amazing, good stuff. It's a fun show. It's a Trigger show. I don't know if you mentioned that yet. It's done by Trigger.
I didn't. No.
Yeah, so it looks really good. Nice OP as well, and I really enjoyed it. I just haven't gotten to checking out more than one episode yet. I think it's on Netflix, right?
Yes.
I didn't check it out there, but yeah.
So, I have to acquire it. But.
Yeah. They're thinking about another price hike again, so fuck that!
I kind of find it funny that the intro song to a show called Delicious in Dungeon is performed by Bump of Chicken. Big think.
Yes. One if that was intentional by the production committee. Who knows?
Hey, come on, it had to be.
Yeah. But yeah, it's one of those fun, cozy, at least, again, for me, you watch more episodes than me, but for me, from the gathering from the first episode, it's one of those, it's probably going to be pretty light on the plot side of things, if there is any. I mean, the OP teases some stuff that might become plot-related.
Things happened in, I don't want to say too much, but things happened in episode 4 that were kind of interesting, where they ran across a certain tribe of characters and they made a deal with them, and it was like, okay, all right, so things are happening a little bit at a time, so
okay, so we'll see what that builds to.
This is still a maybe for me, just because I know it's slated to be 24 episodes, and I wonder how fresh they can keep it for that long.
Yeah, same for me.
If they at least keep things mildly interesting as it continues, then I'd be willing to stick around. Yeah,
same for me. It's like, hey, okay, you can only show me so much fantasy food, especially since I'm on a diet right now. that helps me, like that gets me interested or not annoyed, and then not do anything in terms of maybe character development and or plot development, and I'll jump ship after 5 or 6 episodes the most. But we'll see if they actually do something like you said in episode 4. I'm like, oh, okay, they're actually going more into the world building and something that might reveal the secrets of the dungeon or whatever, and what that all relates to, and might become something bigger. Right now, it's just, one of those cozy end of workday shows where it's like, hey, you need something to relax? There you go. That's what you turn into, and that's what you switch on. And you're gonna have just a cozy time and relax. And yeah,
it's kind of neat because I guess they're dubbing it at the same time. I haven't listened to the dub yet, but so you can have your sub or your dub. You don't gotta wait. So
yeah, I saw that ProZD is voicing Senshi. So
then I have to check it out.
Yeah, so he sounded great in the clip. He's doing, as usual, great work. And watch the dub if you can. If you have fun, support the voice actors and so on. And sure. I'm, of course, going to watch it in Japanese, but still, I'm glad that they picked some good people for this.
Yeah, there's another show that I watched. We'll probably touch on briefly that I had watched it way after its initial run, so it was fully dubbed, and I kind of went back and forth between the sub and the dub just to see how, certain things reacted. And it was, it was really good, so.
Yeah. Good times. All right. My last maybe is Bucchigiri. Yes, this is the new Mappa show, or the Mappa show of this season, which of course I was about to check out, because usually Mappa at least delivers something passable, if not great looking, and this is a good looking show. Arajin, the main character, has just one wish: losing his virginity. Sadly, number 1, he transfers to a school that is full of delinquents who love to beat each other up, which Arajin definitely doesn't want to do. Actually, the whole town is rival schools territory, so he has to run away a lot. And number 2, he of course falls for the one cute girl who loves to bait guys into getting beat up by her big brother.
Oh, God.
Luckily, when Arajin by accident shoots himself in the head with a magic gun, he is henceforth accompanied by a djinn who intends to make Arajin's one big wish come true, and if only that means to give him the power to beat the shit out of everyone else. So yeah, it's a funny, colorful show, good animation, slightly shonen-esque with an edge, but also very leaning very much on the comedy. Of course, the premise makes this seem like a very horny show, which it kinda is, but also not really. Trust me, it's not the horniest show this season, and we will get to that very shortly in my keepers. But yeah, it's fun. Like we have Arjun, like we have his weird crush there with her weird brother complex, which I'm not sure about yet. Again, only watched one episode of this. Arjun's childhood buddy Mataraka had a growth spurt and is the strongest guy at the school. You know, he seems to admire Arjun, maybe because Ara saved his life once, or he thinks he did. So there's an interesting mystery going on between those two, and already a neat dynamic. Arjun gets nervous a lot around girls and violence, and if he gets too nervous, he suffers from acute diarrhea. Classic.
Heh?
Yeah, of course.
Johnny Sasaki?
Yeah. Pretty much. Yeah, and you know, a couple of other fun and dipshit side characters. You know, you got Arjun's mom, who would love him to find a cute girl, but she's slightly overbearing, slightly in quotes. She might also work at a sex bar when she's not managing the restaurant. Not sure yet. That might be a red herring. I'm not sure. Maybe I only thought that woman had the same voice. That bunny girl, woman, whatever. So we'll see how that develops in the coming episode that I'm gonna watch. But yeah, weird teacher who is like very nervous and doesn't know how to get around all this violence. I don't know. And yeah, I'm interested to see how this develops. It's a very wacky, colorful, funny show, and it's yeah. I definitely. I mean, I'm gonna keep watching for a couple of more episodes. I don't know if the premise will hold my interest, but the action looks good so far. So maybe that will do it. I don't know, but yeah, that's why it's still a maybe. Might become a keeper very quickly, though. Who knows? It's a Mappa show. Usually, I tend to stick with those, but we'll see. All right, John. Do you have another maybe, or are we ready to move into the keepers?
My last maybe, I think, is probably one of your keepers.
I'm listening.
And that is Metallic Rouge.
Yes, that is my first keeper.
Perfect. So this is sort of like a future punk world, and we're on Mars, and it centers around this girl named Rouge. And to me, the plot is not clear yet, and I'm 3 episodes in. I guess there's this set of androids called the Immortal Nine that Rouge and this and her partner Naomi are hunting down.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm 3 episodes in. It's a maybe for me because I don't quite see the framing yet for this.
Yeah, it's a bit. At least I have watched 2 episodes, I think. Did I watch the 3rd one? I'm not sure. I think I've only watched 2. And it still feels like they're building towards something, like we're waiting for the other shoe to drop, right? So it's okay. We had to have this framework, like it's the usual stuff. We have androids and they're treated like tools. So allegory for racism and everything. And, some of them hide their identity just so they can actually do something in human society, and like the humans are discriminating against. There's like the slur scarhead for the normal ones who have like these scars, these lines on their faces, which makes them easily identifiable as androids. But if you have the money or the resources, you can also hide that apparently, and some of the characters in this show do that. Our main character as well, like she's not easily identifiable as an android, as a neon as they're called here. And that's that. And then apparently she and her companion Naomi are like hunting down apparently these super strong neons who are like, there are a bunch of terms thrown around in the first couple of episodes where it's like, he's a company called Athlethia who's controlling all the androids and everything. And then there are these very strong neons that are special and can like bypass the Asimov robotics law, meaning they can hurt humans. And I think they're called alters. And they're very strong alters, and these have a special name. And these are these 7 ones that you talked about before. So there's like a lot of terminology thrown at you. It's like, here, get acquainted with all this shit, and then maybe we're gonna get to the actual plot at some point. And, there's enough happening. Like, we see enough of the world and everything. It's interesting. Apparently, like, neons were created because of a big war against alien aggressors. And they were, like, the main weapon thing, which has this Battle Angel Alita feel to it, or a setup to it, kind of. And I think it's taking a lot of inspiration from that, actually. And, so we got that. And for me, of course, what I really like is when the super strong neons actually fight, they can don like these battle armors, and it just becomes a tokusatsu show. It's like, hey, here's your Guyver, here's your Kamen Rider thing, enjoy. And I'm like, yep, I am, thank you. And we have a great soundtrack, great animation because it's a Bones show. And it's just like you said. Really still waiting to see where the story actually goes, and if there's anything that makes this actually more plot driven, aside from the, hey, we're hunting out this kind of elusive threat. Is it even a threat of these 7 powerful neons? We don't know why why they're hunting them yet. Like, they seem to be tasked by Thalithia, or maybe another company, or whatever, some supervising body. I'm not sure. But yeah, we're still waiting for that to become more concrete. But for now, for me anyway, it's scratching that tokusatsu itch, and it's a really good looking show. And we got fun characters, like Naomi and Rouge have a nice dynamic, with Rouge being like this laid back, kind of, not necessarily people person, and Naomi very extroverted, loud, and can talk a mile a minute. And, of course they clash, and Rouge just wants to eat her chocolate and not share it. Not even with children. I can relate. And at least in the beginning, she's like that. But she also warms up to some of them. So it's fine. And so it's just a nice sci-fi package with some neat world building. It's just like right now they're front loading it with a lot of shit. And you're waiting for, hey, where is this actually going? And is this anything substantial, or just we're going to do episodic tokusatsu robot cyborg show, android show, which is fine with me, but also I would like there to be a bit more here to jam my teeth into, besides, hey, have you heard about racism? Look at this, like Detroit Human City, which was
wait Detroit
become human.
Racism?
Yeah, I know. Weird. All these androids standing in the back of the bus. I don't know what that is about, John. That can't be. It's so subtle. I have no idea what David Cage is trying to do here.
But it's not. It's not according to him.
No. Of course.
No, never.
No. There's no political message here.
No.
Anyway, I feel like the show is going about it not less subtle, but it's also not wasting too much time on it. And it seems like it's focusing more on the, hey, we got at some point, hey, how are these characters, these androids actually integrated into the society, and where did they come from, and what is actually Naomi's and Rouge's mission at some point? I hope they will go there. And then we got a couple of side characters that might or might not become important. And I like the world building in the first 2 episodes, and I like the action and the characters. So we'll see if the plot also picks up and becomes interesting. But it's enough there. There's enough for me there to make it a keeper. And, it's a Bone show, like I said. So that's fine. Fine enough.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, I mean, everything you said is 100% true. I agree with it, but I'm just sort of like,
Yeah, no, I get it. It's still missing that one big hook that some of these shows needs, where like you have a lot of components that you have seen before. And it's like, hey, this is a neat package, but maybe will you do something interesting with it that will ultimately win me over? Or will you just stay in this world and do shit that we've seen before? So, All right, John, I think you got a couple more shows that, returning shows that you want to talk about that are part of your keepers.
Yeah, just real quick touch on them, because probably won't speak about them at length again. The first is the return of Classroom of the Elite. And it is still filled with all of the crazy backstabbing that had immediately preceded it. So
is this par for the core?
yeah, pretty for the core. Shut up. But yes, this is kind of well, it's not kind of. It is, an immediate continuation of what came before it, and the first test that all the students have to undergo is that the classes are kind of broken up and mixed together and then separated by gender. So it's kind of hard for Kiyotaka to strategize as he had before. And the class with the lowest score on this test, one person gets expelled and then another person of their choosing gets expelled. Mm-hmm. But Suzune's older brother Manabu spends a whole ton of his personal points to keep from getting the one person on his team expelled. So I think that was part of the play of this one other character. And, it's, again, like I said previously when I talked about it, there's a lot of moving parts to this show, so it's hard to really succinctly say what goes on, but boy, do things go on. Because the point that we left at the most recent episode is someone is spreading rumors on the school message board, and there's one kid in particular who's like, "Hey, is this true?" And he's like really stoking the fire. And it's like, all right, bro, you gotta chill out. So the suspense and intrigue continues in spades in Yokoso Jitsuryoku Shijo Shugi no Kyoshitsu e.
Well, I wish you a good time.
It's one of the few light novel adaptations that I'll stick with. The next one is the return of the remake of Urusei Yatsura.
Ah, yes, right. That's continuing. Sure.
It continues to be as stupid and goofy as it was before. God, I want to smack Ataru in the face.
I feel like that is a feeling that was shared even in the first incarnation of that show with a lot of people.
That is the refrain of the show. Ataru, why are you an idiot?
Mm.
And, it's... I don't know how faithful it is because I definitely never watched the original, but you kind of go into it with this feeling, and it's like, yeah, you're kind of picking up what's being put down. And it's just silly, it's goofy, and it's definitely David production being allowed to be like, just make a 1980s show and have fun with it. So,
and I'm pretty sure that it's a high-profile show for David production, so good on them.
Oh, for sure.
And I think this one is much more faithful to the actual Rumiko Takahashi manga, right? And the old show was more a product by its director, by Mamoru Oshii, in terms of humor and how it worked, everything, and kind of deviated from the actual source material, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah.
That I'm not 100% on, but if you were to tell me that, I would probably just say, okay, I believe you.
Yes, I think that's what I heard anyway when people talked about the old show and the new show and new show in comparison, and we're like, yeah, this is how it is now, and this was something, and that's also the reason why some people already prefer the old show or the new one, depending on their sensibilities. There's like, no, I like the humor in the old show better and the direction, and it flowed better because Mamoru Oshii, despite him being more known for stuff like, Ghost in the Shell and Pet Labor and whatever. Although Pet Labor is also a funny show. The movies are more serious, I guess. But, him having a good sensibility for humor, actually, and that presenting itself in that show. But this being, more faithful to the actual humor of the manga and the way the jokes flow there, in terms of editing and scene transition and everything. And some people like this new version better, and other people are like, no, the older version did it better. So at some point, it would probably be interesting to just compare a couple of, some of the stories, some of the episodes that get tackled in both versions, and then see, okay, what did they do differently in the old version, and what did they do? How does the new, more faithful version stack up to that? I won't be the one who does that because I don't.
Maybe I might do that, but I have no immediate plan to.
Yes, but you're enjoying the new one, so that's good enough.
I'm actually not. Maybe it is on High Dive. I'm not aware of a place that has the original show for streaming. Yeah, they don't have it. So, and I really don't want to have to shell out money for the Blu-rays because I know Discotek has been putting them out, but I'll figure that out.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's goofy, it's silly. I'll probably keep watching it just to get a dumb laugh out of it. So yeah, it's fine. It's fine for what it is.
All right, then I think it's time for our final keeper, which came a bit out of nowhere because that show wasn't on my radar, I think, until you sent me the trailer or the OP.
Mm-hmm.
And it had a bit of a late start because it took a while for it to be picked up by Crunchyroll or something, and then they did like this 2 episode double release or whatever premiere.
Yeah, I guess in Japan the first 2 episodes had a theatrical screening, and then
Okay.
they kind of just did a normal airing of them on TV, and then, like you said, it got a late licensing. So I'm glad people can watch and enjoy this show because, oh my god.
Yeah, we didn't even name its name, do its name yet. Its name is Gao Gaga, Brave Bang Bravern. Actually, I've never seen Gao Gaga. I don't know if that relates to that, but I feel like it maybe had some of the energy, also Godanar in kind of ways, at least judging from the OP when I first saw it.
It's not related, but it has the energy. I mean, it's a show directed by Masami Obari. Look at the bumpers. The mech does the pose.
It explains so much. This is a Bari show. I was not aware of that. It's like, it makes so much sense. Not only because of the mech designs and everything, but also because of the content of the show. So this starts out kind of unassuming, like kind of a military real, mecha show, like something, something like a cross between maybe Code Geass and Votoms or something like that. Maybe throw a bit of Gundam in there. Like one of the 2 main characters, Lewis Smith, with the US Air Force or whatever, always wanted to be your hero, not just a jet or tank pilot, but a mech pilot or Titano Strider, as they are called in this show, pilot. And on a joint training exercise between US forces and the Japanese SDF, he runs into Isami Ao, and the two hit it off, which is the start of a friendly rivalry. But everything is thrown into turmoil when aliens attack, and Isami is suddenly asked by the talking alien mech Bravern to enter its cockpit and become a true hero, one Smith always wanted to be.
No. That's not how he's supposed to. He says, "Climb inside me."
Yes. He was so happy when he climbed inside, when he came inside him.
Bravern. No, it's fine.
This was a roller coaster ride of the first episode. Like, if you haven't seen the trailer or the OP, it's starting out, like I said, as a realistic robot show. Feels like, feels a bit like a surprise then, because with that title, Brave Bang Bravern, I would have immediately expected a super robot show, right? And then they do like this, oh no, this is here, I have this military exercise, like with our kind of somewhat realistic mechs on roller skates, I guess, kind of. And, we start off the first episode with this Battle of Normandy-esque training thing, but then out of nowhere, aliens, and the super robot who plays his own battle theme inside his cockpit. Amazing. And quite a swerve if you go into the first episode blind, I imagine. Like, if it starts out like that, which feels pretty grounded, and then turns into this. It's like what?
Like, I had maybe a sliver of an idea what I was getting to looking at, like, the promo image. Oh, check out this cool super robot. But then when the drop actually happens, it's like, I'm sorry?
Yes. I already in the first episode before this happened, I liked the character dynamics in this. Like, Isami and Smith, of course, like, they're fun archetypes, I guess. Although, I expected Isami to be more the stern guy, but he's also he very quickly becomes a very scared and traumatized guy for several reasons, which I didn't really expect from that character. You also have Isami's mechanic Miyu, who's like this hyper mech nerd, TS nerd, and his teammate Hibiki, and they're all sympathetic bunch. They're fun. And Smith provides some glorious English. And, the battles are already from the get-go, even when we're still in the realistic part, are fucking great. There are some great tracking shots. I especially love the little zoom from the side view of a Titanous Strider through a window into the cockpit next to it. They do that multiple times on different occasions, by the way. Super cool idea. I actually cheered for the going hot scene. And of course, once Bravern appears on the scene, it's time to sing along with the theme while pumping your fists in the air. What a good time. And then the second episode happens. And it becomes very, very clear that this show is one big gay joke. Mm-hmm. It's pretty much like Bravern has this long sequence where he, to a committee of military people who get more and more disconnected and annoyed and somewhat, I don't know.
And just flat out bored.
Bored, but also like, it seems like they're just submitting to it. Like Heidemarie is, at some point she looks really annoyed, and then she just had desks. Like her face she's just on her, it's just on her arm on the desk, and she's like, God damn it, make him stop. And he just tells this long story how excited he was that Isami called out to him and got into him and stroked his control stick and did violent motions inside of him. And it's like, all right, show, I get it. I know where you're going with this.
This is, without a doubt, and this is not derogatory, this is an observation that both of us had made, the gayest.
The absolute gayest.
Robot mecha anime I've ever seen in my life.
Yes. Like, it's super fun in that regard. I mean, your mileage might vary in terms of the fun factor if you find this kind of thing maybe offensive. And don't get me wrong, the humor has its edgy side. Like, this ridiculous story that Bravern tells partially in German for some reason. Like, he even speaks horrible German, which, what a king. What a scene. Like, when they suddenly started talking German, and he talks in really bad German back, and it's like, Danke! And I'm like, what? What is going on, show? I'm losing my goddamn mind here. What is happening? And all of that nonsense, all of that ridiculous nonsense with all the music, pathetic music, pathos everywhere, like the story he does, and that intercut with scenes of Isami getting fucking waterboarded because, the Americans think he's in cahoots with the aliens because he piloted one of them. Technically, I guess they didn't notice that Bravern looks completely different from their attackers and also saved their fucking asses. What gives? But anyway.
Sorry, just American things.
Yes, just American things. But, these two things, complete tone whiplash between these two things. It feels a bit James Gunnish. If you look at what happens like in the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie, maybe, and some of his more edgier stuff, where it's like these super ridiculous, funny scenes interspliced with some really dark, nasty stuff. And this kind of has the same vibe at some points. And also, depending on how you feel about joking about sexuality and everything, you might maybe not like this. I mean, I'm right now, I thought it was really fun how the show goes about it. This could still be like, oh, they might at some point go into a direction with this that I don't like. Make this shit, the gay stuff, make this predatory. Which sadly, still a lot of anime derive their gay humor from. Oh, here you got this weird, predatory old gay dudes drooling over our young pro-tycoon. And them going there is pretty much the only thing at this point I can imagine would immediately sour me on this show. So I hope they don't make Bravern that kind of character. And right now it seems like they don't intend to. He just comes across like a very innocent gay robot with a huge high school crush on Isami. And he just wants to be with his crush. And he wants his crush inside of him. And he wants just to battle together with him inside of him. And, it's just, he's in love. That robot is in love. Let the robot be in love. It's fine. Isami doesn't know how to deal with that yet. He seems to be very not okay with this right now, but this also might be because he's pressured into it and, hasn't thought about his feelings yet, whatever. And some of that feels like, okay, I don't know how to feel about this. This would be more problematic if Bravern was very aggressive in a bad way about this. And he's very forward, don't get me wrong. But it's more like this desperate, sad puppy kind of mentality, right? Isami, you're gonna come. You promised, right? You will be here. I believe in you. Like, he's this very desperate, freshly in love for the first time person. And just believes that the other, his feelings will be returned. And that doesn't necessarily have to happen. And then throw into that Smith, who always wanted to be inside a giant robot. And then
doesn't get any better.
No, he gets rejected because, Bravern is a monogamous mech. # monogamous mech. And that's fine. And I'm just really interested to see where this all goes, because it's just such a ludicrous setup. It's just the dumbest shit I've seen in quite a while, and it definitely got the biggest reaction out of me from all the shows this season, because it just went from, oh, okay, I see this might be a fun quote unquote. This might be an interesting, like, military toned mech show. Goes from that to immediately completely bonkers with one of the most ridiculous, most shoony high school robots ever. But adorable also. Like, Bravern is goddamn adorable. Like, he's fantastic. I love him so much. Or I want all of the action figures. Like, throw them at me. He's fantastic.
Hey, Bravern, what's the name of your attack? Zubababa!
You're right. When he corrects this, I mean, no, it's not. It's not Thing Blade, whatever. It's Zubaba Smash now. Please repeat. Do the correct lines, Isami. God damn it.
And the look on Isami's face, like, okay, dude, come on.
Yes, I'm really interested to see, and also, what is the origin of this? Like, how did he, like, did Isami wish upon a star or something, and that how he got, like, Bravern got his consciousness or whatever? Because he seems to be of the similar kind of race that the antagonists are, the death drives, which are these inorganic life forms who plan to attack humans. Why they just want to attack humans, nobody knows. Like, he could say stuff, but it could also be a lie, or maybe he doesn't know, and he doesn't really explain it, which annoys the army people.
He does. To borrow a line from critically acclaimed video game Destiny, he doesn't have time to explain why he doesn't have time to explain.
Yes, exactly. So, I don't know. It's just a ridiculous, dumb show. It looks really fun. Like, the action scenes are really good. Of course, I'm a bit, that the mechs are all CG. I'm like, I would have liked this to be, I
mean, it's not the worst.
No, absolutely not. It's totally fine. Like, and they do some good stuff with the camera where it's like, oh, yeah, it makes sense that it's CG, because otherwise you couldn't easily do that shot, and you're actually doing something interesting with it instead of just making them CG and that's it, right? So that's fine. And, Bravern has a great design, looks outlandish as fuck, as he's supposed to. And we got, at the end of the second episode, we have, like, this interesting, maybe also alien character that gets thrown into the mix and might become important for Smith or whatever, because he just literally stumbles over her on the beach.
Oh, God, episode 3, dude.
I'm looking forward to it. I haven't seen it yet. But yeah, all interesting stuff. And like John said, it's the gayest goddamn show in the season. It's ridiculous. Depending on how you look upon this kind of humor, your mileage may vary, but maybe give it a chance. Right now, it seems pretty inoffensive and innocent. I hope it stays that way and just has fun with it. And that be it, without getting too creepy or whatever, aside from, some of the weird tone shifts happening, which are fine, and actually keep this fresh. So, I love mech shows, and I love unusual mech shows, and this is definitely one of the most unusual mecha shows I've seen in ages. Planet With probably was the last one, and that was not a true mecha shows, because it was just, characters manifesting kind of an armor or something and didn't actually climb to a robot, I guess. Whatever. But yeah, this is fresh, and definitely is what my top keeper for the season, because it's just The thing, like I said, that got the biggest reaction out of me, and a positive reaction, because I was laughing a whole damn lot, and it sounds like you were too, John.
Yeah, God, it's such a throwaway line, but in the first episode, when Bravern's theme is playing, and Isami is like, "Where is that music coming from?"
Yeah, I love
It's so
that.
good. It's so good.
Because you never realize until the character manages it, right? Mention it, right? Because it's like, yeah, it's normal that these kind of battle hymns play in these shows, but that they're actually playing in the show is, you know.
I had a moment where I'm watching and listening. Well, wait, why are they doing that with the audio? And I was like, no, come on, don't tell me there. And then Isami says that, and I'm like, oh my God, they did.
I feel like they did that in another mech show not too long ago, but I don't remember which one.
There was a joke like that in Super Robot Wars OG2, I think.
But
I know it was in the game. I don't remember if it was in
Inspector?
In the Inspector, but
no. I mean, it might have been, but it's not the show I'm thinking of. I don't know which one it was.
There's this big joke for people who don't know in the original generation games where oh god, I can't remember the character's name, but his mech, the Außenseiter, who he calls Trombe after his childhood horse, his theme would somehow override everyone else's because of a glitch in the coding, and then I think they just sort of kept it moving forward. And then there's like one mission in the game where they're blasting it out of like the ship's speakers, and it's like, shut up, this is so stupid.
It's nice.
It was equally stupid because Super Robot Wars also does this fourth wall break more than once, because there's this one where I think they did it in the game and in the show where Sanger Zonvolt is going up against one of the big guys, I think Vigagi or Vigago, whatever his name is, and this is when he first gets his actual mech, the DGG, and he's like, this is my mech, blah blah blah, and he's got the music playing in the background, and that's when they put the title card for the episode in the show. It's like episode 13, War Gods Armament Dai Jengar, and Vigagi is like, what do you mean episode 30? What? Huh? It's like, this is so stupid, and I love it. I love when there's little moments like that. Just, it's blink, gone. It doesn't even, you don't have to linger on it. You just do it and you walk away from it.
Yes. I feel like Bravern has, which also the title, right? That also figures into the joke now. Now that I think about it. Bravern is a brave bang.
Don't
don't
worry about it.
Anyway, but I feel like this show is also going to do that a lot, because it already did it a lot, and yeah, it's fun. It's got also this nice thing of international feel to it, because they're American guys, Japanese guys, German guys hanging around, and all talking in their language, I guess. And I always appreciate when that happens in a show. So yeah, fun show. I hope it stays that way. I hope it doesn't become creepy or, annoying or whatever. And right now I'm just enjoying the shit out of it. I'm really looking forward to checking out episode 3 soon. So yeah, this is definitely so far my highlight of the season. I don't know what that tells you about this season, that this show is the highlight for me, this super dumb mech show, but goddamn, it just pressed the right buttons.
I mean, the past couple seasons have been kind of not bad, just a little light, a little slow. So
yeah, it's true. This is also reflected in our review quota, I guess. So we'll see how this season
have a quota.
I guess maybe. I mean, we started out with a lot more shows that we looked at, but also we changed our format a bit here and there. So there's not that, there's something relegated to the Quick and the Dead and, stuff like that. So that is also a reason. But like you said, the last couple of seasons have been pretty light. So this one isn't, actually, because we got a lot of reviews lined up this season. So be prepared for that. And we're going to start with our first one in a couple of seconds. All right, yeah. Time to review the second season of Jujutsu Kaisen, which is one of the big blockbuster standout. Everyone was looking forward to this. Everyone was watching this, I guess, shows of the previous season. The first season was 2, and we reviewed that in episode 110. If you want to go maybe there first, and then return to this if you don't intend to watch the show at all. And we also reviewed the movie, which was also a lot of fun, especially watching it in the movie theater. I enjoyed that a lot. And yeah, now the second season. Before we actually get into plot developments and everything, and there's a lot to talk about actually, a lot of literal shit, dark shit, horrible shit happening this season. But that horrible shit is apparently not only relegated to the plot of the season, but also the production side of things. There was a lot of stuff coming out while the show still ran, while the season still ran. That the situation at MAPPA apparently wasn't great during the production of this, and a lot of unhappy voices from freelance animators coming out, and I don't know how much they actually went into details, but you got like these vague comments on Twitter. It's like, people very defeated and saying stuff like this is not fun anymore, or this sucked, and having a bad time. I don't know how many people actually went into details on this. Like, I'm gonna link a couple of articles in the episode notes if you want to check those out. I haven't read up on anything. There's a piece on it where on an Anime News Network where they go a bit in more details and have a bunch of quotes and everything, and go into what actually might have gone wrong there. MAPPA has a very particular way of going about producing its shows. They are outsourcing a lot of stuff. They're a very outsource heavy studio, which is cool in one way because you get a lot of animators from different countries actually working on their shows, which is always neat to see. But also the way they actually line up their production and everything, and how the actual time management works and everything, it doesn't always work out apparently. And then you get crunch, and then you get people who are worked to the bone and become very unhappy people. And usually in other shows, the production really, like the final result really suffers from that. And I think maybe the problem for the actual people who are involved in the production is, in terms of visibility, that is not necessarily reflected in the show. Because it's still like, whatever happened in the background, the end result, in my opinion, this season is still a spectacular feat in terms of, production values, in terms of how it looks, how it sounds, how it's animated and everything. I don't know, were there episodes in here where, John, you felt like, oh, this is coming apart, like there are definitely something went totally wrong here, and I see the seams bursting here, or like, wow, if I didn't know that this had severe production issues and nobody had told me about it, I wouldn't have noticed.
Not so much, but there were some action sequences later on in the show, or in this season, that I felt like they weren't bad, but they felt a little
disjointed.
Yeah, disjointed off, a bit framey in places.
Yes.
And I was just like, I'm not sure about this. And a friend of ours called me on that to see, because I had said the same thing about parts of Fate Apocrypha. And he's like, okay, I just want to make sure you're having a consistent opinion, but I don't think it's that. I think that might have been part of the production issues, because there were some sequences that it just didn't seem right.
Yes, I think in the Anime News Network article they're mentioning the two-parter Thunderclap, where the first one apparently was produced ahead of time, and the second one was in the production lineup where shit started to come apart, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
I think that's one. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
yeah, and on the surface, it feels like both are like these big visual spectacles with great, camera work and everything. But apparently, the second one, if you look for it, there's a lack of cohesion, and there's also, more visual noise, and it feels maybe a bit too loose and fluid for its own good. I mean, the action sequences in Jujutsu Kaisen have also been, even in its first season, and in the movie, have a very fluid and loose feel to it. The way the animations work and the tracking shots and everything work. A lot of that has a more, not as fixed feel to it. And that kind of benefits the show in a lot of ways, in my opinion. It makes the action scenes seem more dynamic. But apparently, and I gotta say, maybe I got too swept up in the spectacle of it all. And I like my shows to go completely wild with their visuals. Like Mob Psycho 100 did that a lot too, especially in its second season, I think. So I didn't mind it just becoming this insane avalanche of imagery at some point. Where it's like, what is actually going on? I don't care. It just looks amazing, right? That's how it felt to me. But apparently, if you go back, if you look closer, you can see like, okay, this maybe should, these shouldn't be as framey, like you said, these parts. And these shouldn't be as weirdly disconnected and should be more cohesive action scenes. You should actually be able to follow more what is going on here, and you can't because these scenes were not stitched together as well as they would have been if the production was actually handled correctly. And yeah, I can see that. It's just that when I watched it, I still had that in the back of my head. I heard about the production issues on Twitter and everything while I watched it. But I didn't go out of my way to look for it. I was just like, I'm just here to enjoy the action scene and so on. And, there were scenes where I could like, yeah, this could be it, but it's also not so bad that I feel like this is indicative of what I heard about this. So I was still surprised how good this show looked, despite of all the horrible things I heard about it. I was always waiting for that one episode, right, where it's like, oh, this is where it's coming apart. Oh, this is where it completely like dissolves because everyone just couldn't do it anymore and everyone was giving up. But either they didn't, and they managed to actually, or with the magic of editing or whatever, they managed to mask it, or because the animation style of the show has always been kind of loose. Even when it was still helmed by another director, or because of that, because it's just Sungwoo Park's style, which you could also see in God of High School, that also has a lot of loose animation scenes, and maybe that's why it didn't pop out at me as much as in other shows where the production values, the production issues rear their ugly heads. So. Yeah, that just as a preamble to this kind of, or a book note, because if you watch the show without this knowledge, I feel like you kind of still have to go and look for it to actually really notice it. Most of it still feels like it's competently handled. Sure, there's some episodes that look worse than others, but you have that in all big action shows. And also, you cannot have all the episodes have the same amount of visual finesse and explosions and direction or great action direction and editing that the other shows have. So you have some that definitely look not as good. You like the fight against, we'll talk about that later, on the Lovecraft thing. Like looks a bit, just in terms of how the reason for this is also where that fight takes place and the contrast is too high and everything. But also the animation itself is partially maybe not as as well done, at least not in the second part of that episode, and considering what episode came before that and what fight came before that. But I also expected that. I was like, okay, this cannot all look as amazing as this episode looked in this episode, and that's totally fine with me. But overall, in terms of quality level, quality baseline, this is a ridiculously good looking show. This is a ridiculous good looking season. Considering how this is such a action heavy season. It's basically just fighting. The first season had a lot of fights, But it also had, some low-key mission stuff and training stuff in between where there's not that much action actually happening. You're bringing the characters into place and you're just walking around and, talking and stuff like that. And there's not that much of this in this season. We got like this smaller arc in the beginning, and then from a certain point on, it's just bang, 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 another action scene, another action scene, another action scene, another action scene. And they get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And I expected, okay, when is this just going to implode? And it kind of doesn't. It just looks amazing, in my eyes anyway. Like from the outside perspective, and in my opinion, if you're not actually trying to look for issues here, maybe if you have a more school-trained eye that knows, okay, this is how it probably was supposed to look, and this is how it turned out, you can see the issues on the screen. But for me, it was, hard to spot a lot of them. Like I said, I noticed some smaller ones where it's like, this could be it. But I never got like the big implosion that I expected, considering what voices I hear. So kudos to whoever still pulled this together, but also, God damn it, Mappa, get your shit in order. Like, why does this still need to be a thing in 2023/now 2024? Like, why is this still such a big problem in the anime landscape? Like, why do we have to hear about this again and again? And I mean, anime production, like media production in Japan, is not the only thing. We also have that in the US with some Hollywood productions. The Marvel movies come to mind with the visual effects teams being worked to the bones there and everything, and some movies suffering from that severely. And there it's noticeable, right? Like something like Ant-Man 3, you see that this probably is not how it was supposed to look, because some of that stuff looks really, really bad. Some parts in She-Hulk look really, really bad. In this, like, they still managed to pull it together somehow, in my opinion. But that doesn't negate the fact that apparently a lot of shit went wrong and a lot of people had a really bad time on the production side of things. And that's not what you want to do if you want to keep dishing out these kind of high quality products. Like, you need to make your employees happy, and you make sure that they can bring their best. And if you like fucking crunch them to death and have like people who are responsible for the production and the planning be really bad at their fucking job, then you're gonna lose these talented people at some point, and they're gonna move to other studios who couldn't handle this shit better. And that's a shame. Like, I don't know how you feel about this, John, but I feel Mappa has like made it their thing to be like the big blockbuster studio in the anime landscape. They're grabbing all the big action shows, or a lot of them anyway. Like, we have Vinland Saga, Attack on Titan, Chainsaw Man. Like, I guess now Bucchigiri though too, but that is more low key than the other ones. But they're always going now these days for the big animation intensive shows. So they need a good crew to be able to handle this kind of work intensive shows. And apparently they're not good in some parts anyway. I haven't looked into the production on Chainsaw Man or the most recent seasons of Vinland Saga and of Attack of Titan, if there were any big complaints there. And maybe we can't even find anything on that, because apparently even for Jujutsu Kaisen season 2, they made people partially sign NDAs, or they at least ask animators to sign NDAs to not divulge any information about Jujutsu Kaisen season 2 bad productions. I don't know, some people still spoke out, so I don't know if that was just a friendly ask and not everyone had to subscribe to that, actually had to do that. But yeah, so apparently they wanted to keep that on the hush-hush, right? And that is shitty. That is really shitty. Like, I don't want to read that about you, Mappa. That makes the experience, the positive experience I've had with your show so far, really sour in my mouth. Like, I really don't like that. That's a bad aftertaste. And I want these people to be paid well, because they're delivering incredible entertainment, and they're doing a fantastic job. And what are you doing? Why are you ruining this for everyone? get better planners, do a better job at making this a good production. I don't know what the problem is here, and I would probably have to read this up more because, like I said, the Anime News Network article goes more into details, what might have happened here and who fucked up here. But usual, and you see that from all the people who are responsible for, in video game companies, and be it indie or AAA or whatever. And I guess the indie people admit more to that. There's this podcast like with indie video game directors there on a regular basis. And some of them have said, hey, if you have to rely on crunch, that's on the people who are responsible for doing the planning and for lining up all the different parts of the production. Then they fucked up. Like if you have a solid production schedule, if you have a solid planned schedule, you don't need crunch. You don't need to fuck up the work-life balance of your employees. Then if that happens, someone on the higher up end of things who was responsible of coordinating that entire shit has fucked up. They have either misjudged, they have miscalculated, be it accidentally, which makes them bad at their job, or intentionally, which makes them horrible people. So I don't know if this has happened here, but I must assume that is the case here as well. Or they just don't care, right? They're just like, no, we just have to get this out and fuck, the people who work for us. So I don't know. But it sucks. It sucks because this is a cool show and Mappa does a lot of cool shows. And I don't want to read this about them. This is really annoying and this makes me really angry. And please, Mappa, just get your shit in order.
I feel like a large part of this is them just taking on too many projects.
Yes,
and then that trickles down.
Yes, absolutely. Like maybe this studio is not big enough, and that also speaks for them doing a lot of outsourcing. That can work, but you need people at the helm who can manage that properly, who can plan for that properly, who knows when must what happen, and who build cushions into your planning schedule. I know that is tough because you still have only a limited production time. If you're like, hey, okay, this is when the season needs to air and whatever, and shit can always happen. Especially, if we had COVID and everything, and that probably threw a wrench into gears. I don't know if Jujutsu Kaisen season 2 was affected by it, but I can imagine. And depending on when the production actually started. But still, it's like you need people who are able to account for that and can, if shit goes wrong, compensate for that, know how to compensate for that. Maybe employ more people who then maybe don't work as much, but if need to be, you have like this personal cushion, basically, right? You have this human resource cushion. You have more people than you actually need to streamline the production, but you have them if something goes wrong. That's how you should think, because there's always shit that can go wrong in these productions, and you need to account for that. And in such a big production, and especially if you have such a steady lineup of shows over, next season there's another show, and next season there's another show, and next season there's another show, and then you have also movies and everything. You need to have people who are able to plan for that well. And if you don't, you need to get rid of them, and you need to get better people who don't make life miserable for all the people that are working on this show as well. And that's kind of my point of view on the whole thing. And like I said, I haven't read up on all of what went wrong and everything, but usually that is what happens.
I think it's also worth noting that one of the animators talked about how they had 4 months to crank out the movie.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. Yeah, don't do that. Like, who makes that decision? Like, production committee think they can do that. Let's fucking go for broke. Like, that's ridiculous. That's absolutely insane. Don't do that. Why would you do such a limited time frame for such a high value product, for a high work intensive project?
Because it is high value, and we need to keep it going. We need to keep
absolutely.
Public interest in it's so.
And that's working out great for Marvel right now, right? Still making money. But that's like, no, we need new product. We need 3 movies every year or whatever, right? We can't now, after Avengers Endgame, we can't take like a couple of years of break. Let people cool down, get off this high, wait for it, and then crave more of the product. and then we fulfilled that demand. No, we had to keep going, we had to stuff it down their throats. And I still don't feel like that is what, Mappa does with these shows, because they still, they don't, immediately go with the next season of the show, the coming anime season. Like, they always switch it up. There's always a different show, a different franchise thrown in here with the next season. But still, I don't know how much they retain of their outsourced labor force, and I don't know how much planning actually goes into this and how much time they take to line that all out perfectly. Apparently not enough. And
I'm sure none of their outsourced stuff sticks around. It's probably all contract work because they can pay them dirt cheap.
Yes,
and that's
absolutely.
the problem with animation in Japan is nobody gets paid what they should.
Yes.
The going rate is pennies on the dollar per frame.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And then add to that the ridiculous time frame that they pick for that. And it seems like either people don't care or they put the money before everything, which of course happens everywhere. But it still seems like this is a very prevalent disease in not only anime production in Japan, but just in general, artists being underpaid and everything. And this is one of the things that irks me when people, in contrast to, hyping, hey, the budget or for the new Godzilla movie -1 was so low, and they managed to crank out this great looking movie with ridiculously good looking effects. It's yeah, they did, but why is nobody? Yeah, why is nobody asking how much these visual effects artists actually were paid, and in what kind of time they had to crank this out? Where are my interviews for that? Talk to fucking Toho and ask these people, and they won't answer, of course. But don't hype this shit up. Don't normalize this. Be yeah, no, these people definitely were underpaid. Absolutely, they must have been, because that's not where most of the money for this movie went. And if the budget already is so low, I can only imagine them getting only, like you said, a couple of pennies for their work, which is unreasonable. And, visual artists being underpaid is a problem everywhere, but it still feels like it's one of those big, big issues in Japan that you hear of again and again and again and again. And then added to that not even with this low payment stuff, they're able to give them decent work conditions in regards to how fast they have to crank that shit out and try to keep up the good quality at the same time. And that just sucks. It sucks. It's horrible. I want that to change. I don't know how we can change it. I mean, if you don't watch that stuff, that also means people don't get, I guess, paid in the end. Maybe.
If you don't watch it, you don't buy the merch.
Yeah.
It's not good for anyone.
Yes.
The viewers and the fans have so little impact on this.
I guess the biggest impact is still speaking with your wallet, make them listen, but also they might draw the wrong conclusions for it and be just, this show was not successful because it was not big enough, maybe, and then they go into the complete opposite direction of what we want. It's no, we need to crunch more to make this more attractive. It's bigger thing the next time. It's no, that's not why I didn't watch or buy your show. It's
just a giant no-win.
Yes. I don't know what to do. Maybe write letters. I don't know.
Then they'll get thrown into the garbage. Why should they care?
I don't want to be defeatist about this, John, right? I want to be optimistic and say hey, maybe there can something be changed, and maybe more unions would be good. I don't know how many, if there are any in the animation space anyway. I think in outside of Japan, they're doing something with that, or something more with that at this point. But I don't know if that even is a thing in Japan. I have no idea. And how that would work with all these contract workers and outsourced work, something that Mappa does. I think they found a loophole there that saves them a lot of money either way and issues, at least the production committee side of things. So yeah, it's a bad situation. And we wanted to front load the review with this so that we don't end on a negative note, because we couldn't have stuck it in between, in the middle here, without losing the plot of the season. And also, if we stuck it at the end, it would have like been a completely like sour note to end on. But we had to talk about it because it's been a very dominating topic that accompanied the entirety of this season. So it's very much an issue, and people need to be aware of that and make up their own mind about it. Like I said, I will link the articles in the show notes, so please read them. Yeah, that's kind of it for that. And with that, we're going to get to what actually happens this season in Jujutsu Kaisen. I don't know, how long did we talk about this now? 20 minutes?
Ish,
or something. Yeah, big topic. All right, so yeah, what actually happens in the second season? Like, how do we start out, John? I've talked so much now, I need to take a break.
Kind of start out with a flashback. And it's basically a flashback back to the younger days of Satoru and Suguru and their own high school days. What a rip-roaring time, and them going on their training and trying to make sense of this whole star plasma vessel situation, and they're going after this curse user sect called Q. Interesting letter choice.
Yeah.
Surely that has no real world parallels whatsoever. No.
And we should mention for people who maybe are not up to speed with names and everything, Satoru Gojo being one of the big standout good guys in the first season, and Suguru Geto being like one of the main antagonists, already kind of established in the first season, but even more so established in the Jujutsu Kaisen Zero movie. And this flashback is set even before the movie. Like, we kind of went reverse. Like, we had the first season of Jujutsu Kaisen, then before that is set is the movie, and before the movie is set the first mini arc of this second season. So if you want to watch the show chronologically, I guess you would have to start with the first couple of episodes of the second season, then watch the Jujutsu Kaisen Zero movie, then watch the first season, and then continue with the last 2/3 of the second season.
I couldn't imagine actually watching it like that.
No, and it's not necessary. Like, you can watch it out of order. You can be like, no, we start with this, and it makes sense because in the first season we get introduced to our main trio and everything, and actually our point of focus character, and then we get filled in on some of the side characters through the movie and this flashback, which is very good and important, but it also doesn't need to be the first thing that you see, because you won't have any reference to all the characters that get kind of properly introduced in the first season first, even the side characters. So yeah. But it's nice to have all the context now, right? To have all the this is that character, and that's how they started out and everything. And I like that we got this in this first mini arc of the first season.
Yes, Satoru and Suguru are tasked with protecting this girl Riko, and she's being targeted by Q, as well as this religious group called the Time Vessel Association. These names, dude. But they sort of take care of Q without much issue. But then when the Time Vessel people sort of are running low on their own resources, they hire this dude named Toji Zenin.
And that last name.
But he goes by his wife's maiden name, Fushiguro.
That name.
Yes.
He immediately rings a bell because we have a Megumi Fushiguro in the first season, and he says like his dad left him early or died early, and immediately it clicks and like, oh, okay, that's Megumi's dad. All right. And they have to fight him. Like our two main guys.
And Toji is no pushover.
Absolutely not.
It doesn't seem... I kind of had a hard time sort of grasping his ability. It seems like he can't really use cursed energy, but he can utilize objects infused with it.
Yes, it seems like he's more of a what is her name? The one who uses magic tools the most, because she doesn't have as strong of a inherent cursed energy gift.
Not Maki, was it?
Yes, Maki, right.
Okay.
So he's kind of a very much stronger version of Maki, I guess. Like, he's a magic curse tool user, but he's also like, he's got this ridiculous mental and physical strength on top of that. And is just on par. His strength is just on par with the best curse users. Suguru, not Satoru being one of them at this point, and then they clash, and it's a big thing. I mean, the reason why our early Jujutsu sorcerers like Suguru and Satoru have to protect this young woman from Toji is like what's the lore reason behind it? Like, the leader of Jujutsu Sorcery has to switch bodies every 500 years, or he will evolve beyond being human, like Tengen is his name. And that would make him lose his will, which would weaken the defenses of the school, since his power strengthens all the barriers and everything. So I think Satoru tries to visualize this issue by comparing it to Digimon evolutions, which, that's nice. The common man thanks you for that, Satoru. But Suguru and Satoru just need to protect this new vessel from like these two groups, Q, like you mentioned, and the other group who want to see him evolve for different reasons. Like, one wants just to make the school weak, and the other one just wants chaos or whatever. I don't remember exactly, and that's kind of what this happens. And it's kind of like this inherently sad thing because what was her name? The woman that they're trying to protect.
Rico.
Yeah, she will just become a vessel for Tengen. She will lose her identity and mind, as it seems, right? Once Tengen
like
takes
she will cease to exist as Rico.
Yeah, and that's already like, oof, okay, wow, okay. It's a dark show. But, that's still an interesting aspect to this world. And in regards to Suguru, who we know will become the big bad, he starts out in this like a completely different character. Like, he's at this point in the show, he still believes in the strong having to support the weakest in society, which is the polar opposite to what he believes or seems to believe in Jujutsu Kaisen 0 and the first season. So, the Sorcerous he thinks that the Sorcerous must protect the environment and weakest of humans. And likewise, Satoru doesn't seem to care much for the needs of normal humans yet. Like, they're kind of have reversed roles in this flashback, where it's like, oh, okay. They kind of evolved into different directions after this. And, this is also the reason why he forgets to cast Veil and shit goes wrong. But, that mostly seems to be fronting and him being full of himself. I don't know. it's like that's how Satoru also still is kind of in the first season, even though he's a bit mellowed out, I guess. He does some nice things for Rico in this mini arc. So, but he seems a bit edgier in the beginning. He's still in his high school years, and he's like, he was always kind of like a jokester, a trickster, someone who is going against the higher ups, who doesn't like the status quo and shit like that. That was very much apparent in the first season. But even more than that, in the mini arc in the second season, he is still like in his very much rebellious phase, and that kind of comes true. And and then he has to fight Megumi's dad and gets his ass handed to him, kinda.
Yeah.
Even though he's already established as pretty much the strongest Jujutsu sorcerer there is, right? I think Satoru is still like, he's like this destiny child in terms of his, what is it, Mugen power, his eye, whatever his eyes do.
Yeah,
like
limitless power and 6 eyes.
Yeah. Ridiculous. Like, he's not on the level he is when we meet him in the first season, which is even beyond that. But he's, and this is actually how he gets to that, right? Because he has this near-death experience when he fights Megumi's dad. But it's like, he's already so strong. And then, that shit happens and he becomes even stronger. And it's ridiculous. And then you can only imagine, like, what kind of force he is and how much this whole system relies on this power, on him being there, and what it would do to the system if Satoru suddenly wasn't there anymore. And that becomes a very important factor in the second part of the second season. But yeah, I love that the Q guys got disposed with off screen, and it leads to the group's collapse. Like, wow. Those were surely a force to be reckoned with.
Oops. Oh well.
Yes. But yeah, Toji seems very much like an ass. When we meet him, he's not a nice guy.
Yeah, he's very all about himself.
Yeah. But these fights in these first couple of episodes are pretty great. One of the attackers' lives flashing before their eyes before Suguru beating the shit out of him is hilarious. It was it was a fun thing. We also see younger incarnations of some of the side characters we've met before, like Mei, for example, which we'll meet again in the second season later, but also have met before, and Utahime, without her scar yet, I guess. Have we met Shoko before? Like the third member of the Suguru and Satoru team? I'm not sure. Was she mentioned?
I feel like we may have seen her briefly.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not sure. I was like, was she shown before? Maybe also in a mini flashback or in the movie? I'm not sure. But she isn't around in the first, like in the current day story, right?
Not that I remember.
No, me neither.
Not at least in the current season.
Yes, exactly. So I wonder if she will appear. Did she die? I'm not sure if that was already maybe revealed, and I didn't pay attention. But yeah. So I'm interested to see because she seemed to be like the mediator a bit also between Satoru and Suguru, which were always like taking jabs at each other, and she was like the bystander a bit, but also kind of. You guys are funny or whatever. So, yeah. We get that fight. We meet also young Nanami, one of our favorite characters, in both seasons of this. And his young version, as his old version, is a total mood. I would have never recognized him without his glasses. Like, he looks completely different.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, but it's fun. He's always fun. And then we get, after Toji... No, then we, like I said, we get the fight between Satoru and Toji. Doesn't have as much cool moving 3D environment stuff as I was used to from the first season of Jujutsu Kaisen. I don't know, maybe that's more Songu Park's thing. And I feel like we get more of that later on. But in the beginning of the show, it's like, oh, yeah, it's noticeable that this is a different director. And we got a couple of different animation directors in this as well, I think. Mm-hmm. So it's like, okay, this is a bit different. They're putting the focus on other stuff, I guess. But I still like it. But later in the season, there was still like, this shit got so ridiculous again. So it's like, okay, maybe I got the wrong impression here in the beginning, whatever. Regardless, it's an amazing battle that we have here. And did we not know that Satoru would survive this? The ending of the confrontation would have been a real what the fuck moment, considering how much they already built up Satoru in this as this force. And then he just gets
cut the heck up by Toji, and then don't worry about me.
Yeah. So he will return, and then we have Riku gets killed before she can become Tengen's vassal. Which would have been, which is sad, but we barely spend any time with her, so it's not as emotionally resonant as if we had gotten to know her better. And, there's a scene later in this show that hit much harder for me. Of course, spend more time with that character.
We'd only been with her, 4 episodes up to that point.
3.5? Yeah, something like that. It wasn't much.
But they were already plotting at that point. Suguru is like, hey, what if we just get away from this and run away? Mm-hmm. And I think because they had he and Satoru had kind of wordlessly agreed on that being a possible thing to do. But then, Toji comes in and does this thing. And it's like, well, guess not.
Yeah. This already highlights the trajectory that Suguru is destined to go into, right? To reach the point where he is in Jujutsu Kaisen Zero. That gets more elaborated on. But, you also get the setup, which I don't think we were aware of before, like how his power actually works. We knew that he was just a cursed spirit user, right? That he could keep in his body or whatever, and could just pull from his, like almost a limitless library of cursed spirit that he accumulated over the years. But we weren't really sure, like, what that means, that what effect that would have. And he actually has to consume these cursed spirits. And what that does to him is he literally ingests the full brunt of human ugliness over and over again. Because that's what curses are. They're the manifestation of that. So he gets bombarded. Every time he has to ingest a new spirit and adds it to his arsenal, he has to deal with this overwhelming feeling of hatred and disgust and all of it. Like all the worst things humanity has to offer. And you can imagine that wearing you down over time.
Yeah, just a bit.
Yeah. So it's a very important part, and it's like a mechanic part, right? It's like basically like explaining how his powers work, but it's also a great little bit of character building because it explains why he is so susceptible to what happens to or what sways him later on in his story, or where what trajectory he takes, like I said. So it's totally, he becomes a much more understandable character. It's like, how did he end up there? How did he start here and how did he end up there? Oh, no, I get it. Like, he has to deal with a lot of shit. That doesn't excuse what he's doing later on, absolutely not. But I now can see how he got there, and it makes total sense to me. And that's always good. If a show is able to make you understand its villains and humanizes them to a certain degree without excusing their actions, and it's like, no. You see how he got there, and you see why you see the building blocks of his downfall and his corruption. So that's good. I really enjoyed that. I thought it was a great little bit, and I love Suguru's simple "oh yeah, die" reaction to Toji telling him he killed Satoru. It was a great way to end that particular episode. Maybe also because he didn't believe it. Like, it's like, yeah, you killed Satoru. Right, I believe it when I see it. Now die. I'm not sure, but it was like, even if he believed it, like immediately just going, yeah, I'm just gonna kill you then instead. And
you killed him? Yeah, okay, dude, sure.
Yeah. And yeah, like we established, Toji can't use curse techniques, but he has an array of curse weapons and tools he can pull from a living curse that he keeps either inside his stomach or wrapped around his neck, which is a bit icky, but I guess it works for him. And yeah, then we see Satoru awaken fully for the first time, and it's kind of downright scary, and Toji never stood a chance. Like, he gets completely, like, does he get disintegrated, or does he just get a giant hole blown into his body? I don't remember. Or just half of his body blown apart by a giant energy blast. Something like that.
Yeah, he just kind of gets blasted in half, and it's like, well, okay, dude, sure. I guess you're done for.
Yeah. But also kind of, Satoru was almost on the verge of going on a rampage, right? Like, he would probably have killed all the common believers of the Star Religion thing if Suguru hadn't interfered. Which, okay. Still, like I said, it is uncontrollable phase. So, but yeah, and this short arc was called Hidden Inventory, I guess. And then we get another
hidden Inventory and Premature Death.
Yes, Premature Death, I think, is the next one. That is, I think, now the one where we go more into Suguru's corruption and how he becomes the actual dominant villain of the show. Or does he? Small time skip, I guess. And then we have like kind of different constellation, like due to Satoru becoming better at using his enormous powers, like he gets sent on more and more solo missions. And Shoko is not really a field agent, so Suguru gets sent on more and more solo missions as well. And that's an issue because, literally having to eat shit every day becomes a lot less bearable when you are all alone and don't have your friends around to ease your pain. And he becomes more depressed, agitated, and keeps on wondering who he is doing this for. And he can't see a real end to this marathon game, as he calls it, aside from more bodies of his colleagues piling up and eventually him dying as well. So he's a deep, deep depression. And then he runs into the special grade sorcerer Yuki Tsukumo, who tells him that there are two possible ways to rid society of curses entirely. Eradicating all curses energy, which ironically Toji Zenin could have been a key factor in accomplishing, or enabling every person in the world to become a Jujutsu sorcerer and controlling their cursed energy to not let it seep out and build up. Keep that in mind for later developments in the show. But she tells that to exactly the wrong person. Because that gives Suguru the idea, hey, if one would kill all the non-sorcerers, cursed energy wouldn't be a problem anymore.
Right. Sensible.
Mm-hmm. So, and the final nail in the coffin comes with a mission where some villagers abused and imprisoned two little girls who they decided are responsible for the curses plaguing their village. And if you pay attention to Jujutsu Kaisen 0, you know that these two girls will join Suguru's bad guy squad. Anyhow, this witch hunt pisses Suguru off so much that it drives him over the edge, and he decides that the monkeys, as he calls them, are not worth protecting anymore. So he kills 112 people from that village and is subsequently sentenced to death by Jujutsu leadership. Suguru even kills his parents and becomes the head of the Soul Star Society. So, yeah, I felt like Suguru becoming this mix of Apocalypse and Magneto in this universe is neat, but I wouldn't have minded to witness a slower descent into madness. The death of Rico aside, which surely was one of the triggers, most of it happens in one episode. So it feels less like a slow, understandable progression of someone losing his grasp on reality by going through a lot of shit, and more like someone suddenly flipping a switch. You can still understand it, because like I said, you get the idea where it's like, no, he has to eat cursed shit every day and he has to deal with all of that, but actually, we don't actually get to see that put on screen as much as we could have. Like, in general, it would have been nicer if we maybe spend some more anime-only time with these characters. Not only with Suguru and Satoru, but also with Riko, to make her death more meaningful and stuff like that. I get that they wanted to end up at a certain point at the end of the season, story-wise, in the current time. So, I get it. But still, it's like maybe they could have done like a separate 13-episode season that just deals with the prequel stuff. And then we get like half of this 13-episode season is like the stuff with Riko, with a couple of anime-only stuff sprinkled in between. And then, we spend enough time with her so that her death feels more meaningful and sad. And then we get the other half where we have like this, like 6 episodes or something of a couple of missions with Satoru and Suguru growing apart and losing touch with each other because they have to go on solo missions, and each of them have experience shit. But Satoru kind of rises up and becomes more powerful, more confident, and happy, quote unquote, with his role in Jujutsu Society. And Suguru becomes more and more depressed. And you could have done like this nice side by side development thing where they like move further and further apart from each other. And it would have felt like made this turn by Geto, even though we already knew that it was coming, right? That Suguru was going there. It would have made it even better, like made it would have felt it more impactful and more like an understandable and like this inevitable progression than more than like, hey, we turn a switch here now and now he's the ultimate evil.
I wonder how it was paced in the manga.
Yeah, me too. I would have imagined it probably even faster than that. I can imagine they're just dedicating like one chapter to this or something. And I doubt, I don't know if the anime cut anything from that. I could see that too, but I feel like a couple of filler episodes, filler quote unquote, would have gone a long way here. Like, sort of with us firsthand experiencing more of the shitty sides of humanity would have made this feel more cohesive. Like, I mean, imagine if you watch this chronologically. His sudden killing spree comes kind of out of nowhere. It's only not as jarring because we already know what he'll become, that he'll become a bad guy. It's not bad, but it feels a bit rushed. Just, because they don't dedicate really any time to it. And we have to kind of understand what he's going through out of context and through, some of the stuff he says more so than it actually being shown.
I mean, obviously we can't get inside the author's head, but maybe that was the intent for it to be a fast turn and for it to be a shock.
Could be totally true, right? I just like to spend more time with my characters, if they're enticing characters. And especially characters that fall from grace are always enticing to me, and how that happens and what their path to their destiny is and everything. So I wouldn't have minded to this being a whole, not 26 episodes, but like I said, 12, 13 episode season, maybe even just 10, whatever. But you know what I mean, right? They could have done that. They could have done a small interject season, call it just Jujutsu Kaisen, hidden inventory and premature death, and make this like season 1.5 or whatever. And then they continue on with the current day in Jujutsu Kaisen season 2. That would have been, I think, a really good choice, or maybe do it as a couple of OVAs or whatever. But it was still good. Don't get me wrong. Like, I enjoyed these little prequel chapters immensely, but I feel like they could have still done a bit better and put a bit more spotlight on these very interesting characters in their youth and how they got to where they are now in the current timeline of the show. So, yeah, like I said, still enjoyed it immensely, but I see room for improvement there, how it could have been handled. And that, again, if they went for, like I said, I can't confirm that because I haven't read the manga, but if this is a beat-by-beat adaptation of what was in the manga, then that, again, speaks for filler episodes, filler quote-unquote episodes, not always having to be a bad thing. Because in this case, I think they would have really added to what the show is trying to do, what the story is trying to do with these characters. Because if we've seen more of, especially more of the second half of it, with Suguru and Satoru growing apart, and, Suguru's slow descent into madness, that would have gone a long way to humanizing that character more and making it more interesting. It's making also what happens to him in Jujutsu Kaisen 0 and what is revealed about him in this, this latter part of the second season much more harsh and sad and substantial and everything. Because, he started out like this really idealistic, good guy. Even more so than Satoru, like I said, he was the good guy. Suguru was the real good guy, idealistic good guy in the beginning, right? So everyone has to strong people have to protect the weak. That's how it's supposed to be. And then going into the complete opposite because of what he went through. Like, that is an interesting journey. That's what I like to see. And for me, they didn't spend enough time on that. I still feel like I can understand where they do enough work to make me understand that character and make me understand what he went through and why he ended up where he ended up. But it still would have felt more, left a more emotional impact if we were more part of that journey, if we spent more time with them, in my opinion. Again, still good. I just don't want to detract from that. I just say I see room for improvement there. That's all. Yes, and then we're back to the present after all this. We get a new OP on episode 6 because the mini arc is over. And I was so happy. Like I said, I like this prequel stuff. I like Jujutsu Kaisen 0, but I was so happy when we got our mains back. We got Yuji back, when we got Nobara back, which kind of is my favorite character from our main trio. Like, Nobara is just one of the coolest fucking female characters in shonen anime, period, in recent time. I think she's so much fun. She already was in the first season, like that, and so amazing in that final fight. I've talked about this on end, how much I loved the final fight in the first season, in which she was a standout in. And yeah, she continues to be that. Like, she doesn't share Yuji's enthusiasm about the fourth human earworm movie. Strange. You just, again, are thrown into, fun conversation with these characters. And that was always one of the best things about Jujutsu Kaisen, the very kind of grounded dialogue between these characters, this very human dialogue between these couple of, friends, schoolmates, whatever, who are kind of all quirky, fuck up characters in a way, but also very funny and people you would like to hang out with. Especially, hanging out with Yuji would be great because he's just a movie buff and he loves this shit. And I would love to have a movie discussion with Yuji. Like, that would be super fun. And hanging out with Nobara, going shopping with Nobara would probably also be super fun. And, there's so many cool characters in this. And it's always a positive feeling when you come across characters like, yeah, I would like to hang out with these characters from the show. I would like to spend time with them outside of what we see them do in this show. And these two especially, Megumi is fun too, but he's a bit of a sourpuss as well at times, which is understandable. But, these two, especially Nobara and Yuji, are just so much fun, and was so happy that we got them back after this little prequel mini arc. And Todo, one of my other favorites, is back. I love him so much. His bromance, kind of one-sided bromance with Yuji, is still going strong. And he miscalculated when suggesting Yuji as a first-rank sorcerer because now he can't tutor him. Poor guy is so crestfallen. I don't know why they had to tell that joke over an intense ping pong battle with Mei, but it's appreciated. So I always like that the show goes the extra mile in that regard, and I guess the manga too. But it always works, especially when Todo is involved. We had that great flashback of this weird high school drama romance thing when they became brothers, right, in the first season. Buraza. It was amazing, and this shit continues in this season, and we get more of their tag team dynamic in a stellar battle that we will get to later in the season. But yeah, this new arc that is started off with the reintroduction to our current tag characters is called the Shibuya Incident, and that is kind of what happens next, and this leads to a big battle, but there's still a lot of setup that we're going through before there's a big explosion. I don't know when things are really starting to pop off. Is that episode 8, John? Or where does it really start to go ham with the action before we actually know, okay, this is what the bad guys are planning, and now, the barrier is erected and everything. I don't know what episode we're actually starting with that.
I think it was probably late 8 or early 9, just, going off of the episode titles as well. So,
yeah.
Shibuya Incident, Gate Open. That sounds that sounds about right.
Yeah. So, before that, we still have a little bit of, like I said, reintroducing to the characters. And again, I can't express enough how much I love the group dynamic between Yuji, Nobara, and Megumi. The so it's like that wingwoman and wingman support from Nobara and Megumi made me laugh out loud several times. Such a great assortment of rapid fire gags. The show is very good with comedy. You tend to forget that with all the serious shit that is happening, but the jokes in this show are top notch, and the visual gags are fantastic and everything. So I just don't want to ignore that, because there is not a lot of that in this season, but there was more of that in the first season, but what there is of it here is grade A stuff. So I really enjoyed that. But we very quickly go into, actual plot progression, and it is revealed that Mekamaru, our favorite not Iron Man guy, remote controlled Iron Man guy, is a mole who made a pact with Suguru and Mahito, or the other big bad guy from the first season. They're all working together. Mahito is like this cursed being, or
he's like an amalgamation of a bunch of
curses. Yes, but yeah, Mekamaru made a pact with them because he wants his body fixed. Like, he's this guy in the top, he can't move and everything. He's like completely disfigured and shit like that, and he wanted his body fixed, so he gave them inside information in return for Mahito fixing his body, because Mahito can transfigure bodies to whatever shapes he wants them to be and whatever. Mekamaru never intended for any of the kids at the academy to get hurt when the bad guys infiltrated it in the previous season, but that shit happened, kinda. So yeah, so he miscalculated. And other than the pact you place upon yourself, this can't simply be broken without dire consequences. So the two villains can't simply kill him before fixing his body. That's how the mechanics with pact works in this universe. Which Mahito does, like he fixes Mechamaru's body intending to kill him afterwards, but Mechamaru created an actual mech. Ultimate Mechamaru. Mode Absolute Armored Puppet Ultimate Mechamaru Prototype 0.
I forgot that was the full name.
Yes. Definitely some Evangelion and Gurren Lagann influences going on with the mech being connected to a cable and everything, the color scheme on the first activation, the drill stuff, and some of the action scenes. So that was cool. It's a cool fight in general, but it's a foregone conclusion. Mahito is only playing around, just as like he always does. But at least Mechamaru got to give him one hell of a finger before he dies. I feel sorry for Miwa because she had like this thing going on with Mechamaru apparently, and she's really like I feel like she gets a lot of the bad shit happen to her. Like I like Miwa a lot, but she either gets knocked out pretty quickly, like loses her fights pretty quickly, like can't get a good slash in or whatever. Like her contributions are kind of minuscule, and then the one guy she kind of is into is a mole and then gets killed by the bad guys, and I feel really bad for her. Like she's kind of the character that is already on the ground and gets still kicked in the show. That's just feels so unnecessary. And she's really nice and cute and a good person, and I feel really sorry for her.
Yeah. Oh God. Every time something happens to her, I'm like, I'm sorry.
Leave that woman alone. Like she is enough on her plate. God damn it. But she's not the only one who really suffers in this season. This season is suffering for a lot of people. So yeah, what is the actual Shibuya incident that then happens in episode 8, 9, whatever? The bad guys create a giant veil covering Shibuya, trapping a bunch of normal people in it. Only sorcerers can come and go freely, or at least enter freely. I don't know if they can leave freely after that. I think they can.
So I was trying to understand this. It seems like they can't leave freely because there's another veil that was preventing them from doing so?
Yeah, could have been multi-layer one.
Because the way I understood it was that there was more than one. Mm-hmm. And that's why it was really not 100% clear about who could stay, who could go, who could enter but not leave, who could leave but not enter, sort of thing.
I think enter... Everyone can enter. No, sorcerers can enter. No one can immediately leave. At least no humans can leave. Sorcerers can enter. No humans can enter. I think that's the conditions that are definitely set. When and where sorcerers can leave, I'm not sure about. Like if they can freely or if they can't because there's a second layer once they have entered and that needs to be destroyed from the outside by a different group. Or from the inside, once they are inside, I'm not sure. But yeah, the mechanics are a bit wonky on that one, but it's all there just to get certain groups in certain places, I think, having specific battles, just to split up our known guys and people up into special groups. Some go directly after, Mahito and Suguru and whatever. And some have to battle other ones who are responsible for the veil and stuff like that. So that's how that works and why that works the way it does. And the bad guys instruct the normal people to call out for Satoru. So you're already aware that this is a trap for him specifically. They're calling him out. He is obviously he is a problem for the bad guys because he's the strongest fucking sorcerer on the planet. So they need to do something about him. We don't know exactly what they're planning at this point and how they plan to get rid of them. Do they want to kill him? Do they want to trap him? Do they want to convert him? Whatever. But it seems they definitely want to get him in there and they don't want as few people to interfere with their plans as possible. And that's why the whale is constructed the way it do. And of course, the humans are the bait. And yeah, then we get a bunch of people, a bunch of sorcerers that we know go into the veil and do shit. We get Nanami. We get, of course... Yuji, we get Nobaru, we get Megumi, we get Mei, I think, is also there. May's haircut remains the stupidest thing in this show.
It's fine. Don't worry about it.
I can't not worry about it. Every time I see it, it just looks so dumb. Like,
I know, but like,
why would you do that, woman? Why? What?
Because fashion.
So non-functional. It's not even good fashion. It looks so stupid. It's that high fashion I've heard about. Okay, fuck it.
Shut up. It's fashionable.
Yes.
Maybe. I don't know.
At least she's a good fighter. But that haircut is dumb. Anyway. But yeah, it's pretty clever of the bad guys to trap Satoru in a place with a lot of other people where he can't use the full extent of his powers, like his domain, for example, without risking killing everyone. Get to that when that actual part of the battle arrives. But, he still gets to unleash his part of his full power to an extent. It's never not terrifying. Like, the way he just pulverizes Hanami is incredible. Who, if you remember, was one of the big bads in the last season. Like, she was the big boss of the infiltration arc. Like, when the bad guys came to steal shit from the academy. And, Todo and Yuji had, because Satoru couldn't be there, because he was kept out by the veil that was erected there, they were the ones who had to fight there, and they had their work cut out for them. So she was a force to be reckoned with. But you wouldn't know that if you had just witnessed her in that fight, because Satoru makes such short work of her. Yeah. It's ridiculous. And it, of course, works perfectly to illustrate how fucking powerful Satoru is. We knew that beforehand, but it's always nice and terrifying to see that illustrated like that, where it's like, no, he just pulls out her fucking whatever antlers and just rips her apart, and she is donezo. And
your reminder.
yes, your reminder. Satoru is the GOAT. So Suguru's gang counts on Satoru not activating his domain Infinite Void, which is his strongest weapon, I guess, because that would almost instantly either kill or mentally cripple all normal humans. And, Satoru is, of course, the first gets to them first. They're like in the subway station down underground, where they got a lot of people around them and curses in subway trains and stuff like that, so to have a constant threat on the people. And Satoru catches up to them, and they're like, well, you can't use your domain here, so good luck. But they miscalculated slightly, because, Satoru activates a so limited version of his domain that it will only touch each human for 0.2 of a second, which renders the normal and transfigured humans unconscious instead of killing them. And moving with a diabolical speed, he's able to kill 1,000 transfigured human curses in the time span of 299 seconds.
God.
It's a crazy scene. It's one of the first, like, after the prequel stuff, it's one of the first big action scenes in this season. And it looks so good, and it's so crazy. And again, it's like, wow, that man can adapt. And I was like, hey, maybe he can get out of this. Maybe he got it figured out and they miscalculated. But those 299 seconds of distraction give Suguru enough time to set up a trap that seals Satoru, who immediately realizes something I didn't see coming, although in hindsight it now feels kind of obvious. The puppet master behind everything from season 1 until now has not been Suguru Geto. Suguru Geto died after Yuta and Rika beat his ass into oblivion in the events of the Jujutsu Kaisen Zero movie, which we saw. Like, we see Suguru very much hurt in, like, an alley, sitting down, bleeding at the end of that movie. And then we, see Satoru talk to him. And we were like, okay, apparently he left him alive or something, or someone got him and saved him or whatever, because he is still alive in the current day in season 1. But there's a small difference between that, a visual difference between that Suguru and the current Suguru, and that is these small little scars, lines at the top of his head. And then it is revealed that apparently the one who is currently commanding Suguru's body is not actually Suguru. And then everything kind of falls into place. It makes sense. Like, we didn't actually see him die, so we just had to assume he either escaped or Satoru saved him for some reason after confronting him, and I was interested to see what that is. But no, he died. And some person, curse, whatever, we don't know at this point, took over his body and memories to be able to use his techniques. And whoever that guy is, he did all this to seal Satoru because he rightfully considers him to be the biggest threat to his plans, whatever they may be. At this point, again, we'll get to that later. He might actually be, I thought he might actually be after the same thing Suguru was after, getting rid of normal humans, but maybe there's more to it than that. And there is, kinda. We'll get to that. But yeah, that is not the character we have thought it would be, or we thought it would be, and that we have seen in the prequel story that we've seen in Jujutsu Kaisen 0. But, still the same character as in Season 1, just to make that clear. So, the one thing that kind of puts a dent into it is that some little flicker of Suguru's soul seems to still reside in his body, as Satoru calls out to it, and his right hand tries to strangle the guy who's steering it right now. So, considering how maybe souls and energy works in this universe, there might still be a version of Suguru that is clinging to his body. I'm not sure. But, we get just a small scene that kind of alludes to that and hints at that he might still be in there somewhere, and that just doesn't have the power to resist fully. Well, it was interesting. We meet a couple of other characters who are part of the bad side group. Shoso, who is the brother of the two brothers that Yuji Nobara killed at the end of Season 1. And apparently the brother of someone else, which will later be revealed, which was more of a shock, I guess. Yeah. But maybe also not. We'll get to it. But there's a lot of, foreshadowing already done in this part of the season. But it was really interesting. But, of course, Yuji is also approaching and everything, and Mahito still has, an interest in Yuji, or everyone does, because Yuji kind of is the host body to an extent of Suguna, so they also need him for something, and they want his power, so he factors into all of this as well, not just Satoru and capturing him. But Satoru is sealed now, and Mahito proposes to race to reach Yuji, and depending on who reaches him first, awaken Sukuna or kill Yuji. It's like everything is a game to Mahito. So it's that's what happens next. And the show emphasizes multiple times that Satoru is so powerful. If he is taken out of the game, not even killed, but just removed from the power dynamics somewhat permanently, the whole Sorcerous society would be thrown into chaos, because a lot of the internal politics also hinge on him being around and to do what he does. So, we already get, again, a little foreshadowing to what will happen at the end of the season. Because chaos is coming, people. But yeah, we're still in the phase where everyone is, trying to get to the bad guys. And I don't know if it's clear at this point already to the other people that Satoru has been sealed.
Yeah, I don't think that's apparent to them for a long while after.
Yeah. So they're still trying to get to the bad guys just for their own reason and to, take them out and save all the people there. The two siblings who Suguru saved and who we've also seen in the movie only hang out around fake Suguru because they want real Suguru's body back, I guess. So everyone in this group kind of has their own agenda still. But they seem to be the more, the one with the more focused one. I think everyone else is just hanging out with fake Suguru because it kind of aligns with what they're trying to do. Although maybe there might also be too much in the dark to notice, and that becomes kind of evident at the end of the season when fake Suguru reveals his true intentions. But right now they seem like this tight-knit group mostly, aside from these two girl characters, because they know that is not the real Suguru, and they are dedicated to the real version of that and want his body back. And maybe revive him, I don't know, because they know there's still a part of his soul residing in there. Yuji and Megumi fight some curse users protecting the veil so that other sources or whatever helpers can get in. And one of them is Soda Popinski. He's quite sturdy, even when Megumi drops a goddamn elephant on his head. But they soon figure out how his technique works and take him down. It's a kick-ass fight, though. I really liked it. Great choreography, great editing, great direction, tracking shots, everything looks good. Who else is with them? Who's the third guy? Inojin? No, what is this guy's name with the headband or whatever?
Oh God, you had to ask.
Ino. I think it's just Ino. He fights the grandma and Mohawk guy, and he's like also again kind of an objects user. Like he can summon various objects and elements by hiding his face under a mask, which is a weird power, but interesting. And he throws a homing spike at them and can use water to glide around. It's just visually very cool. Like, again, the choreography and action direction in these two fights is sick. Like, they do so much cool visual stuff with how the powers of these characters work, and especially Ino's powers, because they're so weird and out there, and I like that. So even though this is just a little side fight, right, with some random people, kind of, it's super fun. Things get more problematic when the grandma, who is a medium, and seems to imbue a cursed object with the spirit of Toji, Megumi's dad.
Yay! Guess who's back?
Guess who's back? Which her grandson then swallows and becomes Toji's host body, who probably beats the shit out of Ino. But, they miscalculated a bit.
Because he proves way too strong to control.
Apparently his body, not his soul, his body is so powerful that it overwhelms the soul of the grandma curse user put it into it. Like, damn. Like, that's ridiculous. Not even a soul or anything, although that part of that might also reside in his body, who knows. But he is so fucking strong that he just overwrites that fucking curse, like that technique of the grandma. It's ridiculous. It's like, goddamn, could you be any more of a badass? And he will become in the coming scene, but whatever. At the same time, we have Nobara and Nita, who have to fight that weird sword curse user guy from season 1, who is really annoying. Ichiji gets stabbed by that dude as well. And, Nobara and Nita just get clobbered by the sword guy. And there is like this killer X-ray shot of Nobara getting hit with an almost KO punch by the sword. It's really gruesome. And then Nanami enters the conversation. He's so fucking cool. Always great to hear Kenjiro Tsuda being to go into full menace voice mode, which he does in this season, in this scene, and I like it. And meanwhile, there are a lot of concurrent fights happening at this point. Like we have we have the Megumi fight against and Ino fight against the curse users, and we have some other fights that are close to being set up with Chozo, the oldest brother of the two siblings Nobara and Yuji killed in season 1. Like I said, he's out for revenge, and he can use blood like a goddamn laser, among other things. And, that's where Yuji will end up later. They have one of the most kick-ass fights in the show. Like, great choreography, again, great use of the limited space, several feints and mind games. Like, they fight in the bathroom. Water raining down on them, all underscored by an instrumental version of the song Remember by Coltrane that played during the fight against the other two brothers in season 1. So it's a cool callback. There's also this great first-person shot of Yuji doing some parkouring through the bathroom stalls to catch Chozo off guard. And yeah, this fight is happening, and Yuji technically loses because his liver gets pierced, and he doesn't account for Chozo being able to shield his body. But then Sukuna seems to reluctantly interfere by doing something to Chozo's mind. I'm not exactly sure what he does, but it does enough. And then we got another side thing with Mei and her little brother Wee, who make quick work of the curse and the domain. Like, there are a lot of different set pieces in this part of the story. It's not hard to follow. It's hard to review it, kind of, because we have to jump from one thing to another. And actually, all of them kind of happen at the same time, which makes visually more sense than if you talk about it. But just, go with it. Go with the flow. A lot of different fights happen at a lot of different places between a lot of different people in this, which is fine. It never feels like the show is like dragging on too long on a particular fight or everything, and it feels kind of organic. And it feels like they don't take too much time between getting back to one of the other ones and wrapping it up or something like that. So it's cool. Like Nanami Maki and Naobito. Is it Naobito Zenin? I'm not sure.
Yes.
Fight like the weird sea creature curse that was always hanging out with Suguru, Jogo, Hanami, and Maito. And it turns out to be fucking Dagon, H.P. Lovecraft shit, or at least a riff on it. That's why he was a fucking octopus thing, and now he's like this weird tentacle god thing, a Cthulhu shit.
I didn't put that together before you said that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why he is like that. And I love that Naobito is not only ranting about what a literal curse, the default setting of motion smoothing on modern TVs is, but also that his power is literally hacking the animation frames of his opponents, which makes him much faster than them. That's some great-ass fourth wall breaking for you.
I have your frame data.
Yeah, I love some of the weirder powers in this show. They're really cool. Like the really imaginative shit, like the Ino stuff and Naobito stuff. I really popped for that. I thought it was great shit. The three get pulled into Dagon's domain, and we finally learn where that sunny beach was that the bad guys always hang out at the entire time, like in dispersed scenes, or when they talk to each other, they were always like in this beach setting. They're like, what is this?
Oh, you're right. I didn't put that together.
Yeah, that's Dagon's domain. And it was like, oh, okay. And that's what when I talked about the production side of stuff, that's the part where it's like, this looks weird, because compared to what we get in, the rest of the Shibuya arc, which is very dark and very grounded, because we're inside a lot of buildings and whatever on streets, and it's the night and shit like that. And then we get into this high pastel color beach scenario, and it looks so different. And I'm like, whoa, okay, I have to get used to that, used to this. And but animation is still good. Not maybe in some parts not as good as in other episodes, but it just looks so different that it sticks out. And maybe that's where some people are like, whoa, okay, ugh. I don't know if that looks really good, but it's all right in my opinion. It's not the best fight also in terms of what is happening and choreography and everything, but it's still fun. Megami almost succeeds to get them free, but instead his dad enters through their intended exit.
Whoops.
It's good that the show already established Toji as an absolute monster in the flashback arc. Otherwise, his overwhelming annihilation of Dagon would have probably felt too much like a Deus Ex Machina thing. But once he enters through the portal and picks Dagon as his target, we know what's coming. The problem is when the others get out of the domain, Jugo is waiting there. And was easy to forget how strong Jugo is, since we only ever saw him go full ham against Satoru, who is not really a baseline metric for sorcerer power. And yeah, then they have to clash, and shit becomes very problematic quickly. We don't see the outcome of that directly, but we know, that's not good. And yeah,
say things get dire is an understatement.
Yes. And then we switch over to the bad guy's side again, or the only bad guy's side again, with Suguru's groupies, who find out firsthand that you don't make demands of Sukuna, which they're trying to do. They're trying to want to annihilate everyone who is like there, or kind of like the guy who abuses Suguru's body in their eyes. And Sukuna is not, he ain't working that way, sisters. Not his thing. Completely destroys them very quickly, as is his thing. And the quick match between Megumi and Toji that is following, them leaving Dagon's domain and Dagon being destroyed and whatever, happens after this. Like, again, we're just talking about battles here that happen very quickly, one after another, and shifting character constellation, stuff like that. And one of the next standout matches is Megumi fighting his dad without knowing that it's his dad. And that shit is stuffed to the brim with cool shit. one-arm quick parries, flying trucks, kung fu rabbits, rabbit nunchucks, exploding rabbits. It has it all. It's like one of the
all of the rabbits.
All of the rabbits. It's like one of the standout fights in terms of choreography again, and what is put on screen and the sheer ridiculousness of it. I love it. And once Toji realizes that he is fighting Megumi, he kills his host buddy?
Yeah, because when he asks for his name, Megumi says Fushiguro, and it seems like Toji's like, he's satisfied that his son kept his name.
Yes, and that he became so strong.
Yeah.
I would assume. Sadly, Swordfucker is still alive, and I think like stabs Megumi, or is intends to stab him. I'm not sure at this point.
Yeah. Like, I mean, that scene is sort of weirdly bittersweet. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, especially since Megumi doesn't apparently realize to the end that that was his dad.
Mm.
So I would have liked to have like maybe a conversation between the two. Just that would have, like, this is like the weirdest outcome. Like the grandma picking specifically that body because it was super strong but miscalculating, and then Toji being able to actually, reuse his body or whatever. And then actually being able to face his son. I would have expected to come more to come of that. Where it's like, hey, son, hey, dad. We have never talked to each other, I guess, or not much after a while. So this is a nice opportunity. But no, we didn't get that. I know maybe we will get that in the future, because Toji could still become reincarnated in another host body. We'll see. He might not be completely out of the picture yet.
True.
Suguru, who's not Suguru, we'll reveal his real name later on. Maybe his real name. That is also not clear yet. But he might make use of him at some point. Whatever. We'll see. And then we witness a battle between two gods.
Yeah.
The fight.
That's putting it lightly.
Yeah, the fight between Jogo and Sukuna is simply insane. This is probably the biggest scale battle in the show since Jogo and Satoru squared off. Favorite moments were probably where Jogo just grabs two skyscrapers and attempts to squash Sukuna between them. Also, Sukuna taunting the other sorcerers by telling them not to move out of the way, or a giant flaming meteor until he allows it.
Yeah.
Yeah, ridiculous shit.
Like who's it? It's Panda, and I can't remember the other guy's name, but they're just like, they're stopped dead in their tracks. Like, oh.
The other guy is fun too. I always forget his name as well, but he's kind of like this, I don't want to deal with this shit just in general. Like, he's a very reluctant sorcerer guy, even more so than Nanami, I guess. In a different way, he seems to be more like a dipshit in that regard. But he's funny, at least, and that part especially. And yeah, but of course, Sukuna is the ultimate, aside from the fake Suguru guy, Sukuna is the ultimate final boss. So of course he takes out Jogo. He has to work for it a bit, but not too much. And we get this nice scene with, flashback scene with Jogo, Hanami, and Dagon, which I always like the series showing our main cursed spirits as this tight-knit, friendly group of companions, rather than just evil assholes who were all in it for their own individual gains. And at least that group, like Jogo, Hanami, Dagon, and even Mahito to an extent, I guess, though he was more the chaotic evil side of things. But these three cursed spirits always felt like this tight-knit group who just wanted, like, kind of the best for their own kind, I guess. And I like that. No backstabby business, at least between them. We get to backstabby business later. And they seemed to have genuine affection for each other. I prefer that over the standard, haha, I actually had different plans, and now I stab you in the back, and all the bad guys, being shitty to each other and just treating each other like tools. And at least among these three, excluding fake Suguru and maybe Mahito. Mahito cannot really be figured into anything because he's just impulse, pure impulse. But these three felt like they were actually, friends and liked each other and meant something to each other. And it's like this bittersweet scene between them because they're all dead, right? And Jogo is kind of joining Hanami and Dagon, and there's this flashback scene to them, and like this little talk in his headspace, I guess, his mind space. And that was nice. Like, they were bad guys, but, you know, they still had kind of like some sympathetic feel, at least when you consider their connection among themselves and their relationship to each other. So I appreciated that. I thought that was neat. Jogo, like I said, is defeated, and with this, only the Suguru imposter and Mahito are left from our initial group of villains. I guess Choso too, but he might not be figuring into the villain side anymore. We'll get into that. Well, and Sukuna, but he isn't part of their faction. And I think he will replace them by the end of the show as the big bad, because that has always kind of felt like the ultimate thing. Either that, or Yuji becomes so strong that he can control him and they become buddy or whatever. And he can control Sukuna's chaos or whatever and makes his strength his own and extinguishes his soul or whatever. That could also happen. We're not sure yet. So far, this hasn't happened. Quite the opposite, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, this was probably the best looking episode up to that point in terms of fight animation in the second season so far, would you say? At least the spectacle was unmatched.
Yeah, for sure. They're basically going around destroying the city to fight each other and, you know, taunting everyone else who gets in their way, of Sukuna especially. But, like,
yeah,
this whole sequence, oh, Jesus, dude.
Ridiculous. Yeah, I was just floored and just pushed into my my sofa cushion, whatever, by just watching that. And it was the right mix too, like in terms of what was actually happening on screen, like a close quarter hand-to-hand choreography focused fight between father and son, and then these two special great monsters shaking the pillars of heaven. It was just cool shit and very, varied and interesting to look at, and yeah, just really cool shit, and one of the standout moments in this second season. But we're not done yet, because as the episode title tells us, this is actually a two-parter of awesomeness. Megumi summons his strongest familiar Makura to get rid of Swordfucker. That's what I will call him until the end of time.
It's not even worth addressing him by name.
No, that little shit. Very aware that this will kill him as well, since Makura can't be subjugated. And as it was bound to happen, this leads to a mind-blowing battle between Makura and Sukuna. A Sakuga feast through and through. I wouldn't even know where to begin to describe the true visual insanity happening on screen in that episode, and that's where we get into the... Maybe some of the production problems reared their heads here. For me, it was just like, bombarded by visual nonsense, or not nonsense, just delight for me, and fucking expressionism, I guess. And I love that, but also maybe some of that missed some of its cohesiveness. For me, it was just simply incredible. While tracking shots, hand-to-hand combat, but also getting thrown through multiple buildings, throwing set buildings, throwing and kicking cars at each other, throwing planes. It's so wild. It's ridiculous. I loved it. I thought it was great, even though it's not necessarily between a character we can empathize with, because Makura is just this powerful thing that Megumi summons, but it doesn't have, like, it isn't imbued with Megumi's spirit or anything. It's just an obstacle for Sukuna that you can maybe wish to take down Sukuna, but we also know that would happen because Sukuna is just the biggest bad in this show. But yeah, again, Makura puts him to work, and it's just a big explosive fight. Yeah, in response to this, Sukuna vaporizes everything in a 140-meter radius, and after he finally manages to dispose of Makura, being the bastard that he is, makes sure that Yuji can see all the death and destruction Sukuna has caused with his body, which Yuji takes not well, understandably. And yeah, it gets worse, because Nanami doesn't look too good either after his encounter with Jogo. But at least he made Swordfucker unknowingly use up all his 9 lives during their fight, quote-unquote, so he isn't protected against Sukuna's mayhem and loses face, literally. The psychological torture of Yuji continues. Nanami is already a walking half-corpse, since he got severely two-faced by Jugo, like burned half of his body.
That is one way to refer to it.
Yeah. But it's still an incredibly cruel scene when Mahito explodes him in front of Yuji's eyes. He was one of my favorite characters.
Yeah, same.
I really, really hated that because I loved that guy from season 1 onwards. I thought his attitude towards his job as a sorcerer was fantastic. And, you know, he was always fun when he was around. He was kicking ass every time. And he is such a cool visual, like this office guy. And then, with his necktie and everything and his glasses. And he's just kicking so much ass. I was sad to see him go. He was great. And he's also definitely not talking to Mahito when he says, "You're here." He's either talking to his vision of Haibara or to Yuji. I don't know. But Mahito like interprets it the completely wrong way, as he tends to do, because he's a child. And that man, that gutted me. For Yuji as well, right? He already had to deal with so much shit. Not being able to control Sukuna and witnessing the destruction at his hands, basically, at his own hands. And then this shit following right after that. But yeah, as a result from that, we get a great fight between Mahito and Yuji. Much more condensed than the previous God versus God fights, but nonetheless fantastic choreography and creative attacks. The Mahito fights are always very fun to look at because he can transform his body into so many weird shapes that it keeps the confrontation quite varied. And of course, it's always great to see that piece of shit getting the ever-loving crap beaten out of him. Mahito is such a sadistic dipshit that you are just clamoring for him to finally get his comeuppance. So every punch or kick in his face ought to be cherished and celebrated, which I did. And this fight gets another wrinkle because Mahito actually split into 2 halves earlier. And this other half is fighting Nobara. I expected this to be a miscalculation on his part, but it kind of isn't. Because Mahito switches places with his double without Nobara noticing, so he can touch and transfigure Nobara, who has let her guard down because she realized the double can't use that technique. And it works, and he touches her cheek and ostensibly kills her. Ostensibly. Wasn't buying it at that moment, and I was right. I think I wrote that in Discord when you and another character talked about it. It was like, man, this was a very sad moment and episode. It was like, not buying it yet. I mean,
but in the moment, it's
yes, absolutely.
Considering what we've seen of Mahito, it's like,
and they go the extra mile, right? We get a nice emotional flashback to Nobara's childhood with her friends Fumi and Saori. You know, apparently she was also good at Smash Bros. Who knew? And we also see a good explanation for why she was so intent on getting to live in the big city. Like, the show doesn't shy away from showing that small towns can be full of narrow-minded, shitty people. And the episode ends on Nobara apologizing to her friends in her mind and saying that she won't be able to meet them again. And we see part of her face exploding. Which, you know, anime likes to do that, giving like flashback story before they kill off important characters. But also, not her whole head is exploding. It's just like the one part, like her eye and one side of her face. And we've seen that Jujutsu Kaisen is not afraid to scar and disfigure some of its female character, right? We know what Utahime has like this really big scar on her face and everything. So it's like, we might get a cool eye patch Nobara in the future. So, who knows? You know, I also was like, hey, maybe they killed her off. It would suck. And, you know, I love that character too. She's my favorite next to Nanami and everything and Yuji. And I love the dynamic between the trio or quartet, which we see also as a flashback, them fooling around with Satoru's expensive shirt, having a good heart's love before smash cut to Nobara's one-eyed corpse, or ostensible corpse. But, you know, I was like, I hope they don't do that. I don't think they will do that. It won't do that. But if they do, it especially sucks because Nobara was a pretty unique flavor of blunt and funny female character that you don't get in anime that much, especially in shonen anime. Instantly likable, witty, also a bit dumb at times, I guess. But, you know, not dumb, but, you know, just like Yuji's also dumb. Great dynamic with the rest of the gang. I was so happy to get her and the others back after the arc and the beginning of the season. Now, if she is gone forever, that would hurt. But again, I was like, don't buy it yet.
Can't just take that away.
Yeah, you can't. You can't.
I mean, you can, but you can't.
Yeah. Great work on the facial animation on Yuji, though, when he loses all hope and conviction. You know, something he thought would get him through everything, because he's kind of like an optimistic guy and has a clear goal in mind and everything. But Nanami and ostensibly Nobara are dying, and Sukuna killing hundreds of people with Yuji's body, that's just too much. And Mahito tries to paint him and Yuji as equals in a gross way at this point. He's like, you save without a second thought, I kill without a second thought, so we were always destined to fight each other. And that really rubbed me the wrong way. It's like, what are you doing here? Shut the fuck up. Like, that isn't even remotely the same thing. I get it. I was like, you were destined enemies, but don't put yourself like in any way on the same level as Yuji whatsoever. Just shut the fuck up.
We're not so different, you and I.
Yeah. And I don't think the killing without a second thought is as much of a distinct characteristic in this universe as Mahito wants it to be. Sure, he is more whim or instinct driven than other bad guys in this show, but you're not that special, buddy. Trust me. You're just a petulant, moody child, Mahito. And now Todo will hopefully beat the living shit out of you and turn you into a flesh puddle. Because, yeah, Todo enters the scene, which I clap for. Of course. You have to clap if Todo comes around, because he also claps.
As soon as he shows up on the scene, it's like, oh, you know it's time.
It's time. It's just like when Nanami entered the picture earlier, when, you know, Nita and Nobara fought Swordfucker. So, yeah. And Nita said Nobara is probably dead. Shows she absolutely isn't dead, in my opinion. He might have been able to save her with his healing technique. I'm pretty sure otherwise they wouldn't have gone through the effort and would have just, you know, made that clear that she's dead. Wouldn't have put a character with a healing technique next to her. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure she's safe. We probably will see her with a cool eye patch in the future, in the next season, if she returns. So, looking forward to that. And as usual, the Todo Yuji tag team fight is a fucking standout. I love it so much. It was in season 1. It is in this season. And Todo is the best medicine for Yuji right now. Like, you know, emotionally, spiritually, whatever. Like, making him realize as long as they're alive, they can still move on. And the ones who died won't be forgotten. True philosopher, that man. Like, giving him awards. Todo is everything you should aspire to be as a man and as a human being. the true woman understander. And a true philosopher. Yes, that man is a treasure. And then, yeah, we have another great fight, like tag team fight between Todo, Yuji, and of course then, or handicap fight against Mahito. And in that fight, I love that Mahito turns into an actual googly-eyed cartoon character in one of the fight scenes. That is one of those blink and you miss it moments. But I went back and was, oh yeah, that's a goddamn Disney cartoon right there. And it was fun. Interspersed with that, we get a sad little goodbye scene between Miwa and Mekamaru's ghost, technically, because he managed to put his consciousness into like these little machines that coordinate the mission, right?
Yeah, they're almost like walkie-talkies.
Yes, little walkie-talkies, but they have a timer on it, right? And the echo of his spirit can only remain in these machines for so long. He's a literal ghost in a machine. Get it? Yes. Yeah. And then, you know, he eventually disappears like mid-sentence, I guess, even. Again, terrific facial animation for that one. Also, again, why do you have to keep on doing that to Miwa? Stop it. Leave Miwa alone. Poor girl.
I feel bad for Miwa.
Yeah. Now I have to mention one of the few things I didn't like about this season. Because as much as I adore the fights in this second season of Jujutsu Kaisen, some of them do a bit too much of the narrator explaining what is happening on screen shtick.
Yeah, that got...
that I'm not fond of at all. And just like in Hunter x Hunter 2011... it's just as unnecessary and distracting here. I don't know if you felt like the same about that, John, but it seems like it. Like it stuck out to you as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's certain scenes where it's like, oh, well, with this with this technique, blah blah blah. It's right there in front of us. Why are you taking time to narrate to us what's happening?
Why are you halting the action for this, right? Like, we see Mahito use his domain expansion, and then the narrator tells us that Todo is moving to protect himself from the domain, which we know because it's shown on the screen. And then the narrator tells us that Yuji is rushing towards Mahito to exercise him, which we know since it's on the goddamn screen. And then the narrator explains to us that Mahito is faster than both of them, which we immediately realize because he is able to touch Todo's left arm and Todo has to cut it off to stop the infection. So what the hell was the point of the narrator?
I wonder if this was a thing that was put into the manga to help better illustrate what was happening.
Absolutely, John, absolutely. That is it.
But it doesn't need to be in the anime.
Exactly. Like, the only thing she does is unnecessarily extending the time a certain scene has to linger until the narration has finished explaining that particular scene. It's ridiculous and dumb. And in these moments, I always have to think of the Egoraptor sequelitis video where he talks about gameplay conveyance in the Mega Man games, where he makes up a worse version of the game flow by having Roll yell, Mega Man, watch out, these blocks are falling. Shut up! I already know this. You know, because the game taught him about environmental hazards naturally by him just playing it. And it's the same here, even though it's a different medium. The animators show me what is going on. So why do you slow down the action to explain that shit to me? Nobody needs that show and tell nonsense. This ain't a manga, dummy. The animation speaks for itself. And if you want to be all anal about it, but CC, with animation alone, we wouldn't know why Mahito is faster than the other two, or why he can counter-attack. Nobody cares! That bitch is a fucking curse machine, shitting out new Play-Doh nightmare creatures every other second. He can do whatever the fuck he wants. Do you really care he was able to get one over on Todo and Yuji because he was able to combine two techniques since he had already activated Black Flash or whatever? Is that really more important than the flow, visual language, and dynamic progression of the fight scene? Then go read a book. Or a curse manual. Fucking curse Wikipedia. Nonsense. I will never understand this particular choice. It's entirely unnecessary. And if you have to do it, let at least the characters who are part of that scene make those deductions.
Yeah.
Which is still completely superfluous in most cases.
It's really mind-boggling that they decided to keep it like that.
Yes, throwing a narrator in there for just these moments feels like an alien remnant from the manga, where there is maybe just not enough visual information to convey what is happening on its own, like you said.
Right.
But animation can do that. It's fine. Leave it be, for fuck's sake. And yes, I'm very aware this is the smallest nitpick of nitpicks. But I just don't get it, man.
It takes away from the scene.
Yes, exactly. Trust your animators to convey it and your audience to get it. It is so belittling to both your animators and your audience to put that shit in there. It's like, yeah, well, kids who watch this won't understand it otherwise. Like, no. Kids are not that dumb.
Watching this anyway because it's very violent.
Yeah, true. But, you know, teenagers, right? This is, this show is geared as teenagers, maybe tweens, whatever. But, you know, they will get it. They will understand it. And the funniest thing is, apparently, they felt it necessary to explain the bullshit power mechanics of Mahito's domain, but we're okay with not explaining Todo manifesting a mind space version of his favorite idol to break from Mahito's spell and beat the shit out of him. That just happens, unchallenged.
But that scene's so good, though.
Yes, of course, it totally works. Of course it does. Because we have learned enough about Todo to understand why it works. We probably wouldn't even have needed the small asterisk text in Todo's head to get what is going on here. And it would have been the same for the other parts of the battle. Drives me up the wall, John.
Yeah, I know. It really put me off, too, when they did that. I was like,
I hate to be treated like a stupid audience member, and I get it. Younger people watch this, but again, kids are not that dumb, and visual language goes a long way. and does a lot to make you understand what is going on screen. And I think the animators do an exceptional job on conveying that on its own through animation. Never would we have needed that narrator. Never. Completely superfluous, and it actually detracts from the fight scene. Oh well. Still loved it, though. Still loved it. What a fight. Taking that aside, it's an amazing fight. It's great. It's a great battle. It's a great action scene. It's amazing. It looks fantastic. But it would have been better without that bullshit. And that's all I'm saying here. Yeah. Actually adapt. Don't just copy-paste. And then Mahito becomes a generic cool demon because he unleashes his full power, finally reaches a stage in his development that he can become what he always wanted to be, and becomes a...
Figures out the shape of his soul somehow.
Yeah, and the shape of his soul is the shape of his soul is like this cool standard demon guy that you see in Bleach or something. I don't know. It's like, it's kind of neat, but also a bit lame. Again, though, love the fight. It's cool. It's
totally not like a Guyver knockoff.
Yeah, that too. Yeah. And yeah, then he finally gets the end he deserves in a way. Like, he becomes a quivering, whiny mess. I probably should feel sorry for him, but I really don't.
Why?
Yeah, the way they frame it, right, and everything. And he's still, like I said, he's still kind of a child. He's a very young, cursed spirit, right? But he's a sadist, and he's an asshole, and so fuck him. Whatever. Feel more sorry about Yuji, mentally resigning himself to a cog in the machine role. Badass speech, though. Don't mind that. But yeah, now that Satoru is gone, Yuji will have no big shot in his corner to defend him, letting Sukuna take over and destroy most of Shibuya. And a lot of people will vote for his execution, which we already can guess at this point, but that comes pretty much confirmed at the end of the season. And then Suguru appears on the scene again. And we learn kinda who Suguru really is, or who is controlling his body. And apparently it's Noritoshi Kamo, who was also apparently maybe just a host body for whatever is controlling Suguru's body at this point. That is not really clear. But right now, the show makes it out to be that Noritoshi Kamo, who's like from this ancient family, and we have met a Noritoshi Kamo in already, the younger version of that, because, you know, that's a legacy name, and, you know, of course, you give, if the most powerful person in your family, you give your kids the same name, whatever, because you want them to be powerful too. Did they actually make a joke out of that when everyone was yelling Kamo Noritoshi? And you know, the other guy, our Noritoshi Kamo we met in season 1 was like, me? What?
Yeah.
And I was literally saying, who? And that's why that reveal fell a bit flat for me. It was like, was he ever mentioned before this? I mean, the Kamo family was, obviously. But
I don't think so.
Yeah, like I said, we literally have another Noritoshi Kamo in the Kyoto group who also appear on the scene here. That's how we get that joke and everything. Who is probably named after the person from his family. That is interesting. Like, okay, but it's this out of nowhere character we've, I think, never heard about. It's like, okay, we have a history with Suguru and everything, and we know so much about him now. But who's this new guy? And do we care? And it's kind of fell a bit flat, and he's like this kind of very powerful guy from that family, and apparently he has his own goals and everything. But also maybe he isn't actually the one who controls this, and was also just previously another host body for whoever is now taking over, has taken over Suguru's body instead. That could be good. It means we might get a more interesting identity reveal down the road still of who is actually pulling the strings. Because, like I said, this one fell a bit flat for me. I was like, who? Who is that? But yeah, like I said, the Kyoto gang arrives together with Panda and Kusakabe. And Mahito actually attacks Noritoshi because I think he knew what would happen next. And that is that Noritoshi just absorbs Mahito because that's all he wanted. He wanted Mahito to fight enough so that he could evolve far enough to a stage where he could best use his power if he absorbed him with Suguru's power, which is absorbing curses, and then be able to use his transfiguration technique. That was apparently the entire plan of all of this. At the same time, before the final mechanics of that are revealed, we learned that Yuji is maybe Choso's brother. What is going on? Choso might be part of the Kamo bloodline, but also Yuji might be. And that's why they're maybe brothers, but also maybe that's an imagination of Choso. They have not really made that clear yet. I didn't quite get that, John. Did you get how that came to be? Where it's like, no, that's my little brother. It's like, what? Wait, one moment, like brother, like with Toto, or literal brother? What is going on?
I think it was like an imagining of his because of one of his powers.
Yes, maybe because he gets in touch with his blood, but I wasn't sure. Maybe he meant that he's his actual brother, and he recognized that when he touched his blood or whatever. I'm not sure. I hope they elaborate on that in the coming season, because this also came out of nowhere. Like, there's a lot of kind of out of nowhere shit happening at the end of the season where it's like, huh? What? Wait, where are we going with this? What is going on? Yeah,
it's not 100% clear, but I don't think they are directly blood related.
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe that will get elaborated on in the third season. But it felt like, why is he suddenly your brother? Anyway, interesting. More interesting stuff happens. We expect this to go into like the full final battle against Noritoshi, but not really. Yeah, like Yuki Tsukumo arrives on the scene, who we have last seen in the prequel arc. You know, that one sorceress that kind of tells the wrong thing to Suguro at the wrong time, accidentally, I guess, without knowing what that would lead to. And she fills us in on some of the stuff that is happening outside of Shibuya, and we get an interesting little world-building detail, like the number of Jujutsu sorcerers outside of Japan is apparently very limited. This little factoid immediately adds a little geopolitical aspect to the whole show, which is kind of neat, which I wasn't aware of before. And yeah, then we finally get the reveal of what actually Noritoshi wanted, why he did all of this. Like, he always intended to absorb Mahito once, he turned... he basically sealed Satoru. That was one of the goals, because Satoru is the only one he thinks can make a dent in his plans, right? And the other thing was being able to push Mahito so far and evolve him so far through fights or whatever that he could, that he would mature enough so Noritoshi could absorb him and apply his power of idle transfiguration to a wide number of people across Japan, which he does, and thus creates around 1,000 more sorcerers, while also unleashing around 10 million cursed spirits. And it seems like...
not a small number.
That's not a small number. And it seems like all he wants is for everyone to fight everyone and everything, just to get someone out of it that gains ultimate mastery of cursed energy. Like, he calls it the golden age of Jujutsu sorcery, and fucks right off after that. And that's kind of what we are left with, almost. Like, we get a small coda epilogue thing with the fallout of all of this, which is immense, of course. Like, the existence of cursed spirits will be made public, kind of acknowledging their existence, but lying that they only appear in Tokyo to focus the cursed energy on a limited area, I guess. We also get the explosive return of Yuta from Jujutsu Kaisen 0, who saves a little girl, and Rika is still with him, apparently. I thought she passed on at the end of the movie. But apparently she's still with him in a way. And we get a bunch of little public services announcements from the Jujutsu Society. Satoru Gojo is considered an accomplice in the Shibuya incident, for example. The headmaster is either expelled or sentenced to death, I think both, for inciting the incident, which both are not true, of course. I don't know how this benefits their the damage control of Jujutsu Society. I have no idea. I guess they just needed someone to blame for this debacle. A fall guy or fall guys. And of course, Yuji's death sentence is also reinstated. And Yuta, who apparently hasn't slept well for a while, is supposed to carry it out. Yay! Good times ahead, everybody!
Took so long to bring it full circle back to the movie.
Yes, exactly. But they did. And now we have a new status quo. which I also appreciate when a show makes big shifts and completely rewrites the status quo again, basically, like completely does a new setup for how the world now works, because now kind of all our favorite characters are hunted in a way, and the shit has gone awry all over the world. Well, I guess not all over the world, because all the stuff they found maybe a way to focus this all in Tokyo. So I guess Tokyo becomes a death zone or whatever, with the 10 million curses running rampant. And then the 1,000 new sorcerers. How long does the mangaka plan that story to go?
Yeah, I wonder.
Yeah. And
well, I mean, with that much, you could probably do a lot of stuff off screen and it wouldn't really matter.
Yes. And we have like 2 main characters from the movie and from the show probably squaring off in the not too distant futures. Hopefully becoming friends, though, instead of just taking each other out.
Well, I wonder about that, considering this season was not hesitant to give us a bad ending.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's still a cliffhanger ending, and shit will go, things have to get extra dark before they can get better again in these kind of shows, I guess. The question is, how much more collateral will we have on the way to get to a maybe somewhat happy end when all the bad guys are taken out? If this is where the mangaka is even going, which, of course, I don't know. Maybe we will get an ultimate bad ending at the end, but we'll see. And them apparently not killing off Nobara was kind of a relief for me, because that would have been a real, like, oh, we are willing to go the full 9 yards with this and kill off your favorite characters, which they do with Nanami, right? But, not all at once, at least. Yeah. So, I mean, she might still die, and Megumi might die, and whatever, and Yuji, and I think not Yuji, main character syndrome, but main character plot armor. But, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Maybe Yuji gets completely taken over by Sukuna at some point, and then they have to kill him, and that's the story of him. We'll see. But it's very interesting. Like, the where we are left at the end of the season is really cool. It's a really kick-ass season. I enjoyed it a lot. John, how did you feel about it overall? Like, what were your highlights? And how did you feel maybe about it compared to the first season?
Like, overall, this season was explosive, I think is a good word.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I feel like it's maybe a cop-out for me to say the triumphant return of Braza.
Yes, it always is. I mean, that's an easy pick to go to, right?
That was good, but the fight between Jogo and Sukuna was crazy, and the fallout from Sukuna's appearance, just like weighing down on Yuji, was, oh man, I can't imagine, to be in that character's shoes and to have no control but have witnessed everything. Oof. That's like psyche altering to an extreme, man. But yeah, this whole season was pretty nuts all around, all things considered.
Yeah, absolutely. I think my highlights were the two-parter, right, with the Megumi fighting his dad, and then we have the Jogo Sukuna fight, and then the Maroko, or what was called Morocco against Sukuna and stuff like that, and then the Maito Yuji fight. And I think those were my standouts, and just such a good time, and such varied and interesting fight scenes, and so much cool shit on screen, and really enjoyed that. Enjoyed everything in between. It was just a really fast-paced season for me. Not that much plot stuff happening, but enough. Like, we had enough big twists and turns and everything, and reveals and shit like that, and was front-loaded with interesting prequel stuff. So I can't complain at all. Like, I got so much cool shit out of the season. I hope we'll get more next season, and I'm really interested to see where it goes. And John, where can people watch all of this?
In most places, depending on where you live, it's available on Crunchyroll, but it's also, depending on where you live, you might have to catch it on something else. Like, it's also on Amazon. It's also on... LiveChart has a whole long list of services that are not American domestic. I guess it's on Netflix in certain regions as well. It doesn't delineate the regions here, but chiefly Crunchyroll and Funimation, pretty much. Apparently, it's on Disney Plus in some regions.
Why not?
So yes, if you desire to watch this show, it is easily found.
Yeah. And I know we harped a lot on Mappa in the beginning, and was like, man, this really sucks. And it still does, don't get me wrong. I mean, as a positive, you could maybe throw in that Mappa apparently offers some of the highest salary for job newbies, like people who start out in the job, compared to other companies, anime companies and companies in general, I guess. In this field.
I was doing some reading about first year animators and how their monthly salary is like not even $300, depending on the company they go to.
Yeah, it's just like they are definitely doing good there in regards, compared at least to other anime companies, right? And trying to give a really good entry salary, but still, it's still not enough. But that's a general problem. That's a whole Japan problem, whole industry problem. And at least Mappa is trying to, in that framework, giving a bit more to their employees. But still, that doesn't absolve them of their transgressions when it comes to how that work is managed. So that was important for us to mention that. Just wanted to maybe make that not look as one-sided as it might have sounded in the beginning of this review. But again, to end on a positive note, Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2 was a banger all around. Very explosive, like you said, John. Lots of big fights, big twists, big reveals, a complete change of the status quo. The next season is going to be really interesting. And the possibilities where this will go next are very exciting. I hope you will join us, because we will definitely keep on watching. And that is a wrap on the 151st episode of Anime Brain Freeze. All the music in this podcast is from the Double Dragon Neon soundtrack by the amazing Jake Kaufman. Please go to virt.bandcamp.com and check out his awesome work. Our show is available on most of the popular podcast services, but it's always worth visiting animebrainfreeze.com for our review index and more. Leave us comments and questions on YouTube, follow us on Twitter at anybrainfreeze, or send an email to animebrainfreeze@gmail.com. We would love to read your feedback. Thanks for tuning in, we hope you had a good time, and please join us again on our next episode. Macht's gut!
So long, everybody. Next time on Anime Brain Freeze.
The dark reimagining of a true icon.
And the intersection of racing and photography leaves two men to find what they have in common.